I went to Shenzhen in July 2004. The reason was simple. I had just broken up with Songhua, my girlfriend of 3 years. It happened at Old Kuan's guest house in Dongguan. I tried to make her stay, but I couldn't. A guy named Zhu came to pick her up. He drove a Xiaoli car and held a Nokia 7610 in his hand, looking incredibly smug. In those days, having a car meant you were a success. It was obvious that this guy was doing much better than me. The moment he arrived, his eyes were glued to Songhua. He ignored me completely. My blood boiled. I rushed forward and slapped him across the face several times hard. He started wailing for his parents. He was tall, but he was useless and didn't even try to fight back. "Why are you hitting me?" he yelled. "Fuck you. You dare touch my woman? I'll kill you," I warned. The guy looked at Songhua with a tearful face. "Xiaoguo, isn't this your cousin?" In that second, I understood everything. I turned to Songhua and screamed, "How can you be so damn cheap?" Songhua snapped. She slammed her handbag onto the ground and pointed a finger right at my nose. "Chinbin, look at yourself. Don't you feel pathetic? I told you we're over. Do you understand? It means you go your way, and I go mine. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. You have no right to interfere in my life, and you definitely have no right to lay a hand on my friend." She screamed those words with a face full of malice. It terrified me. I remembered when we first started dating. She used to cling to my arm and bury her head in my shoulder, gentle as a bird. Back then, I made all the decisions: where to eat, where to shop, where to play. She just followed me happily. But now, my anger vanished, replaced by a cold void in my chest. She kept screaming, calling me not a man. She pointed out that people our age had cars and houses, while I was still rotting away in a suffocating factory, thinking I was actually moving up in the world. I thought about the last few years. I had given her everything. I worked day and night at that factory to pay for her English and HR classes. She had changed jobs 4 times in 3 years, all supported by my silent sacrifice. And this was my reward. I was furious, but I forced myself to stay quiet. I just watched her perform. Finally, she grabbed her luggage and got into that Xiaoli. As the car vanished from sight, my nose stung. I couldn't hold it back. I cried. I got wasted that day. When I stumbled back to the factory, a pockmarked kid from HR stopped me. He claimed I was smoking. He was 2 ranks below me, but he always tried to find trouble. Usually, I let it slide. But that day, I had a fire in my gut. "I'll kill you, you dog." I swung my hand and slapped him across the face. Hearing him cry felt incredibly satisfying. In that moment, I decided I was going to Shenzhen. I had to make something of myself. Finding a job in Shenzhen took a month. Back in Dongguan, I felt superior because I had a degree and a decent income. In Shenzhen, I realized I was as small as a grain of dust. After a month of rejection and cold stares, I finally got into a company called Buyua Technology. The manager who hired me was a sharp woman named Ma Songjing. She didn't talk much. "How much salary do you want?" she asked. I gritted my teeth and aimed high. 3,000. She glanced at me. "That's too low. That's the bottom of our company. We provide housing, but not food. The base pay during probation is 1,200, but with commissions, making 5,000 is easy if you work hard." It sounded too good to be true, like a trap. But I was out of money. I had no choice. On my first day, Ma Songjing showed her teeth. Buyua was a marketing firm that relied on cold calling. She gave me a quick demo and told me to start. I froze. I was an introvert. Making calls to strangers felt impossible. I forced myself to dial the first number. My mind went blank. I had no idea what to say. The person on the other end called me a psycho and hung up. My face turned bright red. My heart pounded. My pride felt wounded. "What are you blushing for?" Ma Songjing shouted. "You aren't stealing or robbing. Get on the next call." That was the longest day of my life. Every call ended in rejection. I couldn't even form a proper sentence. Ma Songjing stood over me like a witch, nagging and cursing every time I put the phone down. I wanted to quit right then and there. But I thought about my empty pockets and the month of wandering the streets. I had to endure it. The nightmare didn't end at the office. Before we could leave, Ma Songjing took the guys down to the bus station. "Go over there and get at least one girl's phone number," she ordered. "You can't go home until you finish." This was stranger ice-breaking. Two guys, Zhang Lu and Song Xiaobo, finished quickly. By dark, two more passed. Only I and a guy named Tang were left. Tang was even more introverted than me. I tried a few times, but I was rejected every single time. People looked at me like I was an idiot. It felt like my dignity was being trampled into the dirt. I failed. Ma Songjing asked why. I can't adapt, I said. She sneered. Either adapt or get lost. I stayed silent. If I weren't broke, I would have walked away. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood by the window smoking, looking at the beautiful Shenzhen skyline. I felt wrapped in despair, unable to breathe. This glamorous city didn't belong to me. There was no place for me here. The next few days followed the same pattern. The nightmare wouldn't stop. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I lied and said I had a meeting with a client, then grabbed my bag and ran out of the office. I wandered the streets aimlessly. I called my old classmate, Chen Jie, and he invited me to dinner in Bowen. I took the bus to Nantou checkpoint. The summer heat was unbearable. I found a spot in Zhongshan Park to escape the sun. Lying on a park bench, I felt empty and hopeless. I had no idea what to do next. Suddenly, I heard a voice. Chen Bin. I sat up from the bench in shock. A woman was standing right there, looking at me. She was beautiful, pale skin, phoenix eyes, and a face like a blooming peach. Her figure was stunning, radiating a seductive charm that was hard to ignore. Who are you? I asked, blinking. It really is you, Chen Bin, she cried out. My God, what are the odds of meeting someone from Fengyao Mountain here in Shenzhen? It's fate. She knew the name of my village. My brain finally caught up as I stared at her, trying to place the face. Then it hit me. Su Xuejiao. Meeting her was a total accident. She was a legend back home. She'd left for work right after middle school, and within a few years, she'd struck it rich. Looking at her now, I struggled to connect this sexy, polished woman with the plain, rustic girl I remembered from school. The rumors back home were always nasty. People said that when a woman is that pretty, has no education, and suddenly has money, there's always a dirty story behind it. Su Xuejiao was incredibly warm. She insisted on taking me to lunch and led me to her white Chevrolet Sail. We drove to Nanshan Science Park. Once we ordered, she just sat there, staring at me. It made me feel awkward. You haven't changed much, she said. You look just like you did in school. You have, though, I replied. The 18 changes of a girl really applies to you. I didn't recognize you at all. She laughed. She was wearing a tight, pale yellow polo shirt that left very little to the imagination. When she leaned over to push a plate of braised pork toward me, I caught a glimpse of her cleavage. I looked away quickly and took a huge gulp of tea to steady myself. I was starving, so I didn't hold back on the food. Su Xuejiao barely ate. She spent the whole time watching me or making phone calls. When I finished, she told me to wait. A friend was coming to meet her. On the phone, she sounded overly sweet, calling the other person's sister and giving directions with a syrupy voice. But the second she hung up, her face dropped. Ugh, she muttered, rolling her eyes. She's just some old man's mistress. Who does she think she is, acting so high and mighty? 10 minutes later, the woman arrived. She looked a bit older than me, tall and striking with short, ear-length hair. She wore platform sandals and had light blue nail polish on her toes. It was a bold, captivating look. Su Xuejiao gave her a big hug, calling her sister June, and told me to call her sister too. Knowing she was a mistress made me feel uneasy. I didn't want anything to do with her, so I barely acknowledged her. The woman whispered to Su Xuejiao, asking if I was her boyfriend. I saw Su Xuejiao glance my way and felt so uncomfortable that I made an excuse to go outside for a smoke. He's a bit rustic, I heard the woman say as I walked away. You need to polish him up, otherwise you can't take him out in public. Half an hour later, Su Xuejiao came out and told me to get in the car. She drove back to Zhongshan Park and parked under a secluded banyan tree. She left the engine running so the AC stayed on. It felt good. Chen Bin, she said suddenly. Do people back home say bad things about me? I don't know, I lied. I've been away for years. She turned her head and looked at me sideways. You're a bad liar. But I don't care what they say. She leaned in closer. Do you know why I said you haven't changed? I shook my head. Because your face still turns red when you talk to girls, she laughed. She was incredibly alluring when she laughed. I could smell her perfume, a scent that felt like it was drowning me. I instinctively moved toward the door. "Damn it, Bin," she snapped. "Am I poisonous? Why are you hiding way over there? Do you really find me that repulsive?" "I don't," I said, shifting slightly closer. Suddenly, she reached out, hooked her arm around my neck, and pulled my head down to her chest. "I hate hypocrites most of all," she whispered. "You clearly want to look, yet you keep hiding." Years later, my memories of cramped car interiors would always be tied to that sweltering afternoon. Before she left, Su Xuejiao looked at me and said, "I liked you back in school, you know. I just didn't dare say anything because my family was too poor. I was afraid you'd look down on me." I walked back toward the checkpoint to meet my old classmate. Standing on the pedestrian bridge near the Bowen bus station, watching the endless flow of traffic, I slapped myself hard across the face. I felt like a stray dog. Lust isn't a crime, but what happened felt pathetic. I always believed that to make something of yourself, you needed self-discipline. I despised men who would touch any woman they could. Today, I had become the person I hated. I grabbed dinner in Bowen and headed back to the office. Ma Tsong-jing asked me which client I had met. I stuttered, unable to give a straight answer. "I'll give you one more week," she warned. "If you're still like this, you're gone." It was an ultimatum. I was desperate. I realized I had to find a new job, so I called Su Xuejiao to see if she knew of anything. She took it seriously. 2 days later, she called me to meet and talk about an opening. She wouldn't tell me what it was over the phone, just that she was coming to pick me up. She took me to the Bowen Stadium. As we walked, she asked if I'd be interested in working sales for a shoe factory. "I can consider it," I said. "Don't worry," she assured me. "They'll definitely hire you. My friend will give me that much face." I frowned. "It's not that woman from the other day, is it?" "Oh, so you don't want to go? You certainly remember her well," Su Xuejiao teased. "It is her. Don't underestimate her. She's sharp. She makes 30 or 40,000 a month. In 2004, that kind of money was astronomical. Working for someone like that seemed like a great opportunity, but I refused immediately. "I'm not going." "Why not? Do you hate money?" "No reason. I just don't want to." My temper was flaring. The thought of working for someone's mistress made my skin crawl. Was I even a man if I did that? "Fine, don't go then." "Why are you yelling?" she snapped. "I'm trying to help you." I forced myself to calm down. "I'm not yelling. I'm just in a bad mood." Su Xuejiao went quiet. Then, she naturally leaned in and hooked her arm through mine. "Don't worry. If you can't find a job, I'll just take care of you." That made me even angrier. I reached out and smacked her backside. "I don't need you to take care of me." She clung to my arm like an octopus. Fine. But why hit me? To anyone passing by, we looked like a playful couple. But deep down, I knew the truth. Aside from her body, nothing about Su Xuejiao appealed to me. Our souls were worlds apart. Rejecting the job meant my nightmare at the office would continue. I chose to be stubborn, and I knew I'd have to pay the price. I just didn't know if my pride could survive whatever torture Ma Tsong-jing had planned for me next. Su Xuejiao told me that if I wanted to succeed, I had to do sales. My friend Xinjie had said the same thing, but I just couldn't adapt to the work at Buyue. "You haven't been in Shenzhen long enough," Su Xuejiao said. "You don't understand how things work here. Come on, let me give you a lesson." I was wary, but I listened. She told me my clothes were all wrong. My shirt needed to be tucked in, my belt should be a solid color, and I needed a tie for sales. My shoes had to be polished until they shone. As she spoke, I felt a deep sense of shame. According to her, I stood out in a crowd like a sore thumb. How could I ever expect anyone to trust me? I used to look down on everything Su Xuejiao said, but standing there in the heat of Shenzhen, I realized she was right. This world is shallow. People are judgmental. In a city this restless and flashy, the first thing anyone notices is your clothes. If you look like a loser, you're treated like one. Su Xuejiao saw me wavering and pulled my arm again. I asked where we were going, and she just nodded toward a new apartment complex nearby. She lived on the 10th floor. Her place was a cozy 2-bedroom, decorated with a warmth that surprised me. The sofa was incredibly soft, the kind you sink into and never want to leave. She disappeared into the bedroom and came back with 2 shopping bags. One held a crisp dress shirt and trousers. The other contained a pair of polished leather shoes. "Try them on," she said, catching my hesitant look. Don't give me that face. I bought them for you. They weren't even expensive. I didn't move. She sighed and added, the receipt is in the bag. You can pay me back later. I finally gave in. I changed into the new clothes, and she spent the next hour teaching me things I'd never bothered to learn. She showed me how to tie a tie, how to wash and iron a shirt properly, and what kind of haircut I needed. She even told me which razor to use. She was meticulous. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. A month ago, I was a scruffy engineer in a factory uniform. Now, I looked like a different person. The transformation felt too fast, almost jarring. Su Xuejiao beamed, looking me up and down. Handsome, she giggled. Shinbin, you've really changed. You're way better looking than you were back in school. Go to work like this. Be bold. I guarantee you'll succeed. I gave a weak smile and tightened my belt. No, the belt needs to be loose like this, she said, stepping closer. She reached out and loosened it by 2 notches. She was crouching right in front of me in a very suggestive position. I realized then she wasn't wearing a bra. I couldn't help but look down at the flashes of white skin. My body reacted instantly. Su Xuejiao noticed immediately. She let out a wicked laugh. Look at you. Go ahead, look all you want. Before I could say a word, she reached out and zipped me open. Su Xuejiao was a wild horse. Even if you managed to grab the reins, you could never truly break her. Whenever we were together, she was the one in control. I hated that feeling, hated how easily I fell into her traps, but my willpower always crumbled in the face of desire. Afterward, I felt empty. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, drained. The people back in my hometown are idiots, she muttered, curling up against my chest like a cat. They see me making money and say I'm selling myself. Please, there are plenty of women selling themselves in this city, but how many of them actually own a car and a house in Shenzhen? I mostly agreed with her logic, but a question burned in the back of my mind. What exactly was she doing for work? Where did her first bucket of gold really come from? I knew better than to ask. Right now, I had bigger problems. I had to survive. The change in my appearance actually got me a compliment from Ma Tsongjing during the morning meeting, but the peace didn't last. We clashed again almost immediately. The company wanted us to sell something called Chinese domain names. The sales tactic was crude and aggressive. We were supposed to call business owners and hype them up, telling them their brand's online trademark was about to be snatched by someone else. We had to tell them they'd face massive losses if they didn't act now. It was pure brainwashing. Ma Tsongjing brainwashed us, and we were expected to brainwash the clients. The whole strategy relied on creating fake anxiety and panic to trick people into paying. I couldn't do it. I knew Chinese domains were basically attacks on stupidity. People use English for web addresses. Who uses Chinese characters followed by a suffix? It made no sense. When I raised my concerns, Ma Tsongjing's face turned dark. She screamed at me in front of everyone. You think you're so talented, don't you? You think you're better than us? Fine. Let's see how great you really are. She snapped. She turned into a raving lunatic, directing all her fury at me. From that moment on, I was her target. She stopped letting me do my actual job. Instead, she forced me to go downstairs and practice cold approaching strangers. Since I wouldn't let her brainwash me, she decided to break me. She made me go to bus stops and lottery stations to hit on random women and get their phone numbers. Every time I failed, she tore into me. I thought you were a genius. If you're so smart, why can't you handle a simple task? I should never have hired you. Look at your colleagues, then look at yourself. You're a piece of shit. You're so smart, yet you're so poor you can only afford a bowl of cheap noodles for lunch. You're a joke. I endured the insults. I stayed silent. Until one day, she went too far. Shinbin, I see you now. You're a coward, she spat. You're a man who doesn't even know how to pick up a girl. You're pathetic. It's no wonder you can't keep a girlfriend. Even if you found one, she'd cheat on you and leave you for someone else, and you wouldn't do a damn thing because you're a spineless weakling. That hit a nerve. Her words brought back memories of Songhua and our ugly breakup in Dongguan. I stared at Ma Tsongjing, and for a second, her face merged with Songhua's. I wanted to reach out and slap the life out of her. Ma Tsongjing held her head high, looking at me with cold, mocking eyes. Go on, Shinbin. If you've got the guts, hit me. Prove you're a man. But if you're too scared, then look over there. See that woman by the flower bed? Go get her number. Do that, and I'll let you off the hook. I was shaking with rage. This woman was a demon. She was a head shorter than me and thin as a rail, but she knew exactly how to squeeze my soul. We were standing outside the Sunlight building. There was a large, beautiful flower bed nearby, bursting with colors. I stood there, heart racing, looking at the target. She was different from the others. She wore a white casual jacket and matching straight-leg trousers. She was dressed entirely in white, looking like a morning angel. Her features were delicate, her eyes deep, her beauty almost ethereal. Shenzhen has no shortage of beautiful women, but she was the most elegant person I had ever seen. The vibrant flowers behind her seemed dull in comparison. My task was to hit on her and get her number. It felt insane. In the past, I wouldn't have even dared to look at her, let alone speak to her. But I was desperate. Over the last few days, I had been rejected 100 times. I had tried everything. I even tried being honest once, telling a girl I was being tested by my boss and asking for her help. Ma Songjing had screamed at me for that, too. I told you to charm them, not beg for pity. Your problems are your own. Why should she care? Never beg. Your girlfriend left you because you knelt on the ground like a dog. Would begging her really change her mind? No, it would only make me look pathetic. I used to care about my dignity, but the moment I opened my mouth to beg, that dignity was crushed under someone else's boot. I looked at Ma Songjing. I told her I was broke, that I had nothing, and that I didn't know how to be confident. She just stared at the crowd passing by. She asked me if I could tell who was a millionaire and who was a beggar just by looking. She told me that if I didn't respect myself, no one else would. It was just a phone number, not a marriage proposal. If I couldn't handle this, I couldn't handle anything in life. My mind was a mess of recent nightmares and failures. I took a deep breath and forced the distractions away. I had already failed 100 times. One more wouldn't kill me. Ma Songjing had already ground me into the dirt. Things couldn't get any worse. Suddenly, my courage flared up. I noticed the woman in white was on her phone, giving me time to adjust. I overheard her mention something about medical beauty. An idea clicked. As soon as she hung up, I stepped forward with a practiced smile. I told her we were doing a street interview for a TV station and asked for her thoughts on medical beauty. My heart was thumping against my ribs. I was terrifyingly nervous. She looked me over with her deep, beautiful eyes. She asked which media outlet I was with. I panicked. I had no microphone and no camera. I was totally faking it. Normally, I would have crumbled, but this time, I held my ground. I told her we were from Gentlemen. She nodded. She told me clearly that she thought medical beauty was anti-human and that she hated it. She went on a long, articulate rant. I was stunned. My random question had actually hit a nerve. I told her she had the clearest perspective I'd encountered and asked for her contact info. Ma Songjing had taught me to stay focused on the goal. I didn't need to debate beauty standards. I just needed that number. At that moment, I felt like I finally understood the essence of sales. The woman pulled a gold-rimmed black business card from her bag. It had one name, Dingzi. I asked for her phone number. She smiled, revealing perfect white teeth, and recited it to me. I had done it. I finally had a girl's number. I thought the ordeal was over. I was wrong. Ma Songjing wasn't done with me. I stared at Dingzi's card. It was exquisite. After so much rejection, this small success felt like a massive breakthrough. But Ma Songjing immediately threw cold water on my pride. She called me a coward. I snapped. I yelled back that if anyone was a coward, it was a bastard. I told her I wasn't afraid of a phone call or a stranger anymore. I dared her to bring on whatever else she had. I was done being her punching bag. She sneered and stepped closer. She asked if I was really brave. Then she told me to take out my phone and call Dingzi right now. I froze. I asked her what she wanted me to do. She told me to pursue her, to sleep with her, to make her mine. I was speechless. She was insane. Anyone could see Dingzi wasn't an ordinary woman. A guy like me, in the state I was in, didn't stand a chance. I tried to look away, but Ma Songjing grabbed my gaze. She told me I shouldn't be in this city. She said I belonged back in a broken factory. She screamed that this city was fueled by one thing: desire. She called me a failure for having a woman like that within reach and being too afraid to take a shot. She brought up the old saying about how kings and generals aren't born from special blood. She asked if I even had the right to call myself a man. Her words set my blood on fire. I was 23. I was young and hot-headed. I couldn't take the humiliation anymore. I dialed the number right in front of her. Strangely, the nerves vanished, replaced by a rush of excitement. Dingzi picked up. Her voice was like a nightingale. I introduced myself and told her I was impressed by her honesty earlier. I asked if I could take her out for a casual meal. She sounded surprised. She told me she was heading to the airport for a business trip right then. She asked for my name. I told her I was Chin Bin. I told her it was a shame she was leaving and that I'd call her another time. I hung up. Ma Tsung-jing gave a small, satisfied grunt. She said I wasn't a total lost cause yet. We headed back to the office. In the elevator, my hands were dripping with cold sweat. I realized that if she had said yes, I couldn't have even afforded the meal. Back at the office, I snuck into the bathroom for a smoke. My phone rang. It was my mom. She asked why I hadn't called and how work was going. I lied through my teeth, telling her everything was great. When I hung up, the guilt hit me like a physical weight. Back home, I was the pride of the family. Here, I was a broke nobody who couldn't even buy a decent dinner. My dad's birthday was coming up, and I always sent money home. This year, I had nothing. I crushed the cigarette and walked back to the department. Just then, a colleague named Fong Ro came sprinting in. She hugged Ma Tsung-jing, screaming that she'd done it. She had signed a deal. She had sold 9 Chinese domain names, a 9,000 yuan contract. Her commission was 1,800 yuan. Ma Tsung-jing went straight to the finance office and brought back the cash. She fanned the bills out in the air, waving them in front of everyone. She announced that commissions would now be paid on the spot. She shouted, asking the team what she was holding. The whole room roared back one word: money. Everyone was screaming. I was right there with them, slamming my palms against the top of my desk until they stung. I was beyond envious. I was 23 years old, and for the first time in my life, I felt the raw, violent pull of greed. I made a vow to myself right then. I was going to get that money. Ma Tsung-jing's attitude toward me finally softened a little. She sent me to learn the website services side of the business. I dove in headfirst, making it my primary focus. Half a month flashed by. One by one, my colleagues started closing deals. Fong Ro had already hit 15,000 in sales. Another girl, Zhang Jing, landed a 9,000 yuan contract. Even Song Xiaobo and Zhang Lu had numbers on the board. Out of the group that started in Department 8 with me, only Old Tang and I were still empty-handed. I was anxious enough to burst, but I felt helpless. That weekend, Su Xuejiao called and asked me to hang out. I wasn't in the mood, so I turned her down. Chin Bin, are you really going to be this disrespectful? She asked. I sighed heavily. Look, great-grandma, I'm being suffocated by these sales targets. Can you please not add to the mess? I'm near your office, she said firmly. Come downstairs. I'll take you for a drive to clear your head. I was feeling too suppressed to say no. I went downstairs and lit a cigarette. Su Xuejiao's car pulled up right in front of me. She took me all over the city that day, doing everything she could to help me decompress. Chin Bin, I really think you can do this, she encouraged me. I gave a bitter little laugh. Sure. She turned serious. I'm not just being polite. I think you have real grit. Look at your shirt, your pants, your shoes, your hair. They're meticulous. I can tell you've been paying attention to all those details I mentioned. I glanced at her, a warm feeling spreading through my chest. Things were incredibly hard right now, but she was right. No matter how exhausted I was, I went home every night and washed my clothes, ironing them flat. I kept my leather shoes polished until they shone. I remembered that these changes were the only reason Ma Tsung-jing had given me any recognition at all. Even if it was just a tiny bit of progress, I refused to let myself slide back to zero. I started reflecting on my failures. I realized my colleagues were selling domain names using passion marketing, basically brainwashing and high-pressure tactics to create anxiety. It led to quick sales, but I was selling websites. Websites involved styles, functions, and complex proposals. It was a rational business. The chances of closing a deal on the spot were slim. Then, a spark hit me. What if I integrated that passion marketing into website sales? I felt like I had finally found a path. Bin, I was checking your company's details online earlier, Su Shuejiao said suddenly. You guys are on a responsibility-based salary, right? I froze. I had no idea what that meant. Then, the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Ma Songjing, you bastard. You freaking trapped me. When she hired me, she promised a base salary of 1,200 yuan during my probation. But now I understood the catch. A responsibility-based salary meant if you have sales, you get paid. If you don't have sales, you get nothing. If I didn't close a deal this month, I was working for free. It was a common scam for marketing firms back then, but I had been kept completely in the dark. Su Shuejiao pulled out 2,000 yuan and tried to shove it into my hand, telling me to use it and call it a loan. I took the money and slammed it down on her car's console. I don't want a single cent, I growled. Only one thought occupied my mind. I was going to fight Ma Songjing to the death. I had to prove myself. If I was going to leave, I'd walk out on my own terms. I wouldn't let her sweep me out like trash. I went back to work like a man possessed. I made calls like a maniac. I booked meetings. I stayed in the office until 10 every night, studying website structures, design schemes, and pricing systems until I knew them by heart. But fate seemed to have a grudge against me. I still couldn't close a single deal. Finally, it was the last day of the month. I was drowning in frustration and despair. I felt like I was saying goodbye to this job and to my life in Shenzhen. I just couldn't make it work. When I arrived at the office, only Old Tang and I were there. Everyone else was out in the field. Seeing Old Tang made me feel even worse. I still had 200 yuan in my pocket, but he was completely broke. I noticed he had eaten nothing but a single pack of instant noodles the entire previous day. Yet, there he was, still on the phone. He was introverted and clumsy with words, but his endurance was terrifying. He could call from morning to night without even stopping for a smoke. Sitting behind him, watching him struggle, I almost wanted to cry. I'm a competitive person by nature, but the cold reality was trying to force me to my knees. I wasn't willing to give up. I knew Old Tang wasn't either. He didn't talk about it. He just did the work. I grabbed my desk phone and looked at him. Old Tang, let's have a contest today to see who can book a client. Whoever gets one, we both go to the meeting. If we sign them, we split the commission 50-50. What do you say? Old Tang turned around. He didn't say a word, but he gave me a heavy, determined nod. I started dialing. It felt like I was being guided by a higher power. I knew exactly what to say to every person who picked up. All the hurdles that used to stop me just vanished. My mind became incredibly simple. Get a client. I'd rather die out in the field than rot in this office. By 11 o'clock, I still had nothing. My heart started to sink. Suddenly, Old Tang hung up his phone. Bin, he said. Let's go. Buji District. A website deal. I blinked, stunned for a second, then grabbed my bag. We ran out the door. Once we hit the street, I dragged him into a small noodle shop. We had to eat before we went. Old Tang inhaled 2 bowls of plain white noodles, 3 yuan each. I paid. He was starving. After he finished, I patted his shoulder. Old Tang, this is an experience we'll remember for the rest of our lives. After these noodles, our luck is going to change. He didn't speak. You know, I continued, it's hard for you to book clients with your style, but the ones you do book, they're definitely high-quality leads. He still didn't say anything, but I saw a light flicker in his eyes. Years later, Old Tang told me that when he was at his most desperate, I was the one who gave him hope. And it started with that one sentence. We went to the bus stop and waited for the bus that only came every 30 minutes. While we waited, I chatted with him about the client's background. I lit a cigarette, took one puff, and caught a glimpse of a silhouette out of the corner of my eye. I froze. The other person turned around at the same time. Our eyes met. It was Songhua. Meeting her here, like this, caught me completely off guard. Shenzhen is a massive city with millions of people. I never imagined I'd run into her. But there she was, right outside my office building. She hadn't changed much. She was wearing a professional suit, a white shirt, and a light-colored skirt. She looked elegant, young, and trendy. I, on the other hand, had changed far too much. I could see it in her shocked expression. She stared at me, seemingly unable to find her voice. Finally, I nodded at her. "Hello. You," she stammered, taking 2 steps toward me. "Bus is here," Old Tang shouted. The bus to Buji pulled into the station. I didn't have time to talk. I just waved a hand at Songhua and climbed aboard. I scrambled onto the bus. Behind me, I heard Songhua call my name. Chin Bin. I didn't turn back. I didn't answer. At that moment, the deal in Buji was 1,000 times more important than her. Her sudden appearance couldn't be allowed to distract me. Old Tang's client was a shoe factory called Baixing Footwear. The man in charge was a manager named Xie Mingjun. He was around 40, a northerner with a blunt, straightforward personality. When we walked in, I heard him speaking Korean to his staff. "Manager Xie," I asked, "are you Korean?" "Kaoxianzu," he replied. "Our shoes follow Korean styles, and many of our designers are from over there." I used that as an icebreaker. We hit it off quickly. I grabbed a marker and started sketching out a website proposal right there on the conference room whiteboard. I poured out everything I had learned over the past month. All the sleepless nights studying web construction, all the sales tactics I'd memorized, and all the experience I'd gathered from failed meetings. I was professional. I was passionate. I painted a picture of how this website would revolutionize his factory's future. I got his blood pumping. I was using the same brainwashing tactics the domain name scammers used. "Manager Xie, if you're going to build a site, you need to decide now. The sooner it's up, the sooner customers can see your products and order online. We need to fix your marketing gap today." Then came the money. I didn't bother with small math. Old Tang and I needed 12,000 yuan to hit our quota. I quoted him 13,000. We went back and forth, but I refused to budge on the price. Ma Tsongjing had taught us that we were consultant sellers. If a client was still haggling over price, it meant your pitch wasn't strong enough. After 2 hours, I broke him. When he signed the contract, my heart soared. I saw Old Tang's hand shaking as he took the paper. I sent Old Tang to the finance department to collect the payment while I stayed behind to smoke and chat with Manager Xie. On the outside, I looked calm. Inside, I was a wreck of nerves and excitement. Then my phone buzzed. It was Old Tang. "Chin Bin, there's a problem at finance. They won't give me the money." I froze. I looked up at Xie Mingjun. "Manager Xie, you might need to tell your finance person to clear this." Xie Mingjun frowned and cursed. "That bitch. Damn it." My heart sank to my stomach. I rushed to the finance office and saw the woman arguing with Old Tang. My jaw dropped. It was the same woman I had seen with Su Xuejiao before. "Junjia," I muttered. I pushed the door open and looked at Jing Xiaojun. I remembered Su Xuejiao telling me to call her Sister June back at the science park. I hadn't done it then because I looked down on her for being someone's mistress. But today, "Hello, Junjia," I said with a polite nod. I needed her. The nightmare at Buyue Company had polished away all my pride. I had to bow to my interests. She was wearing a tight black skirt that showed off her legs and dark stockings. A red pendant hung around her neck, resting right in her cleavage. She was captivating, but cold. She didn't recognize me at first. I reminded her of our meeting at the science park. I thought that connection might help, but reality was brutal. She wouldn't give us a cent. "Junjia, can you give me some face here?" I asked. She smiled at me. "Little Chun, this isn't about face. It's company policy. A project this big needs a management meeting. No individual has the power to sign off. We're a professional company with procedures." Watching her lie through her teeth made me sick. I wanted to slap her. A mistress acting like a high-ranking official, it was disgusting. But she held the money. I could hate her all I wanted, but I was powerless. Walking out of Baixing Footwear, I felt like dying. The pain and frustration were overwhelming. If Old Tang hadn't been there, I would have burst into tears. My phone buzzed with texts from Ma Tsongjing, listing other people's sales and commissions. She knew exactly how to twist the knife. I was ready to give up, but her messages fueled a spark of spite. I couldn't let that devil win. "What now?" I asked Old Tang. He didn't answer. He flipped through his notebook for a long time. "Chin Bin, there's another place across the street. Bailey Footwear. I talked to them about a Chinese domain name before. The boss was interested. Want to try a cold call? Let's go." We were at the end of our rope. A cold call was our last stand. We walked about half a mile to the factory. It was as big as the last one, but the security was tighter. We knew the boss's name was Lu. The guard at the gate looked at us suspiciously. I let out a cold snort. What are you staring at? I'm here for Lu Daojun. He messed up the samples, and I don't know how to explain it to the Koreans. The guard immediately bowed. Please, go right in. Mister. Lu is on the 3rd floor. We marched into the office. Lu Daojun was in his 30s, skinny, with a thick gold chain around his neck. We didn't waste time and stated our business. He laughed. I already bought the Chinese domain name. One of your colleagues came by yesterday. I bought over 10 keywords for 5 years each. I went numb. My entire pitch was useless. I felt like the whole world was conspiring against me. My life in Shenzhen was over. But then, old Tang exploded. He stared at Lu Daojun with wide eyes, his voice booming. My God, Mr. Lu, which salesman gave you that deal? How could he only give you 5 years? The Ministry of Industry just changed the rules. 5-year domains don't have priority renewal rights. A factory this big needs protection. You need 10 years minimum. Old Tang slammed a contract onto the desk. Add another 5 years right now. We'll backdate it to start from 2009 and cover you until 2014. Don't worry, I'll deal with that colleague of mine when I get back. I'll have to criticize him severely. Old Tang continued, his voice dripping with mock indignation. That salesman was too irresponsible. He acted like he was saving you money, but he's actually setting you up for a disaster. I stood there, completely stunned. I never imagined that old Tang, the man who usually couldn't squeeze out a word to save his life, could pull off such a brilliant performance. He looked so honest and simple in his plain clothes and humble demeanor. It was exactly that look that made his absolute nonsense sound incredibly convincing. Watching him get so worked up, seeing the raw desire and passion erupting from his soul, I was totally sold. It was unbelievable. Without another word of protest, Lu Daojun picked up the pen. There was no manager to consult here. Old Lu was the boss. He signed for 13 domain names for 5 years each. 13,000 yuan in cold, hard cash was handed over to us. The deal was actually done. Old Tang and I walked out of that shoe factory with professional, elegant strides. We kept our cool for exactly 100 yards. As soon as we rounded the corner, Old Tang turned and shoved me into the roadside bushes. We started rolling around on the grass like a couple of little kids, laughing like madmen. Chin Bin, you're my lucky star. Old Tang shouted. I haven't eaten in 2 damn days. If we didn't close a deal today, I might have starved to death on the streets of Shenzhen tomorrow. But we're good now. 13,000 in sales. That's 6,500 each in performance. With the commission and base salary, we can survive. Old Tang kept babbling, sounding like a completely different person from the dull, introverted man I knew. I suddenly remembered something a writer once said. I am not good at words, yet I am busy with social interactions. I prefer solitude, yet I am busy rushing about. Everything I do is just to earn those few pieces of silver that soothe 1,000 sorrows. The truth is, this world doesn't allow us to be introverts. Tears actually started stinging my eyes. I pulled out my phone and saw another mass text from the company reporting everyone's sales. My heart raced. I immediately sent a reply to Ma Tsung-jing. Text after text, aren't you annoying? Stop bothering me while I'm busy counting my money. 30 seconds later, my phone rang. It was Ma Tsung-jing. I hit answer and screamed into the receiver. Ma Tsung-jing, I closed the deal. I've got the cash. Bring on whatever scams or tricks you've got left. Whoever flinches is a coward. As I yelled those words, all the suppressed frustration inside me vanished. I felt like I could fly. It felt so damn good. I finally won a round, and I wasn't done slapping Ma's face yet. Ma Tsung-jing's skin was thicker than a city wall. Even though I was screaming insults at him, he didn't snap back. Instead, he chuckled. As long as you're bringing in sales, you can curse at me every day if it makes you happy. That was Shenzhen. If you can make money, you're the boss. If you can't, you're a grandson. I lay spread eagle on the grass, looking up at the blue sky. For the first time, the air in Shenzhen actually smelled sweet. Then, the phone rang again. It was Su Xuejiao. Chen Bin, did you go to Sister June's shoe factory? She asked. Yeah. Why? How's your news so fast? She called me, Su Shuejiao said. She said you're trying to sell her a website for 13,000. She found another company that only wants 8,000. She thinks you and the factory director have some kind of private deal under the table. Fire flared up in my chest. That's bullshit. How can an 8,000 yuan site be the same as a 13,000 yuan one? She's just talking trash. My mouth was stubborn, but my heart knew the truth. Now I knew why I hadn't closed Baixing earlier. A competitor had undercut my price. Don't get angry, Su Shuejiao urged. How about this? I'll drive over, and tonight we'll take Sister June out for dinner. She's actually quite loyal. Just toast her a few times at the table, make her happy, and I'll help you lock down the deal. Okay. I let out a cold snort. Who the hell does she think she is? Me toast her? Make her happy. I'm the one helping them, and she's acting like she's royalty. Chen Bin, why are you like this? Su Shuejiao sighed. In business, everyone looks at the money. Do you have to be so stiff and refuse to soften up? Do you have a grudge against cash? I knew she was right, but I was riding high from the first sale and just wanted to argue. I'm not softening. I'll stay hard forever. Don't you like it hard? Su Shuejiao burst out laughing on the other end. I could practically imagine the scene. She said suggestively, I'm driving over to find you right now. Let's see how long you can stay hard tonight. Stay out of my business, I snapped. Zheng Xiaojun is just a mistress. I have to beg her to be happy just to sign a contract? Should I just go sleep with her while I'm at it? I slammed the phone down. Suddenly, a thought hit me. I had made a mistake at Baixing earlier. Ma Songjing always told me, never beg anyone. I had asked Zheng Xiaojun to give me some face. The moment those words left my mouth, I had already lost. I wouldn't get the money that way. I had to admit, as much of a devil as Ma Songjing was, his understanding of human nature was terrifying. He used to say people are cheap bones. To a woman, a man is a cheap bone. The flowers in the wild always smell sweeter than the ones at home. What you can't get is always the best. To a man, a woman is a cheap bone too. Kneeling and licking their boots is never as effective as giving them a slap, provided you have the leverage. Business is just managing relationships. The core is interest. Whoever controls the interest wins the deal. Let's go, old Tang, I said, standing up. We're going back to see that woman. Which woman? Baixing Shoe Factory. I marched back into Baixing and went straight for Zheng Xiaojun. She was busy touching up her makeup in a small mirror. I sat down directly across from her. Sister June, I called out. She blinked, startled. Chen Bin, why are you back? Slowly, I pulled out the contract from the other factory and let her catch a glimpse of the header. Sister June, I just came from Bailey Shoe Factory, I said casually. Their scale isn't even as big as yours, but the boss didn't hesitate. He signed immediately and handed me over 10,000 in cash. Look, you and Su Shuejiao are like sisters. I didn't realize you were the one in charge here. If I had known, I would have set your site up ages ago. I felt like I was possessed by a genius. My mind suddenly had a crystal-clear picture of the power dynamic here. The big boss of Baixing probably didn't manage this place directly. Old Xie was the director, but Zheng Xiaojun was the boss's mistress, using his name to grab power in the factory. Usually, women like that crave authority but lack the actual ability to lead. With that realization, I felt completely superior. If I could trick a director like Xie Mingjun until he didn't know which way was up, this brainless mistress didn't stand a chance. Think about it, I continued, leaning in. All those beautiful shoes of yours, put online with a flash animation on the homepage. And you? You should be the model. With your legs and feet in those shoes, I guarantee Baixing's reputation will explode instantly. My performance hit the mark. Using Bailey to provoke her was the key. Competitors always hate each other, and Bailey and Baixing were direct rivals. She was hooked. Bailey Shoe Factory had already made their move. There was no way Baixing would want to fall behind. I didn't stop there. I kept piling on the flattery, treating Zheng Xiaojun like she was the true mastermind of the factory. It worked perfectly. She had the ambition to lead but lacked the platform, and I was handing her one on a silver platter. Her defensive posture finally softened. The other day, a high-tech company contacted me, she said, her voice wavering. They quoted me only 8,000. My God, Sister June. I gasped, acting horrified. Can an 8,000 yuan site even be the same thing? Here, let me show you. I grabbed her office computer and pulled up a few websites I knew had flashy animations and beautiful models on the homepage. Her eyes went wide. She leaned in close to the screen, her shoulder brushing mine. I caught a glimpse of her feet. They were small, smooth as ivory, with pale red polish on her toes. She looked incredibly seductive in that moment. I felt a sudden surge of heat in my gut, so I took a quick gulp of tea to suppress it. I pointed at her designer handbag. Sister June, look at this. Anyone can tell this bag cost over 10,000. You can find bags that look similar in Guangzhou for a few hundred, but are they the same thing? Of course not. You and Su Xueji are sisters. If it weren't for that, I'd be in Lihu right now collecting cash from other clients who are begging for my time. Right on cue, my phone buzzed. It was Ma Tsung-jing. I hit the speakerphone immediately. Manager Ma, don't be so impatient, I said into the phone. I'm in Buji chatting with a friend. Ma Tsung-jing was sharp as a needle. She caught on instantly. Chinbin, I've had it with you. I'm trying to give you money, and you won't even show up? If you don't come today, forget the commission. Manager Ma, I trust you, I laughed. A mere 50,000 yuan is nothing to you. I'm just really busy. I'll be there later tonight, okay? I hung up and looked at Jing Xiaojun. See, that was Manager Ma. He runs a beauty business, and he's been waiting all day to pay me so I can get his site live. What are you waiting for? She was finally conquered. The factory is short on cash right now, she muttered. I'll write you a check. The final day of the deadline ended in a landslide victory. Old Tang and I walked away with 2 contracts totaling 26,000 yuan. That deal at Baixing changed me. The shy, introverted factory boy I used to be was dead. In the moment I signed that contract, I felt myself finally sinking with the frantic, ruthless rhythm of Shenzhen. On the bus back to Futian, I clutched the bag of money to my chest. A hunger I had never felt before began to grow in my heart. By the time we reached the office, it was dark, but we were treated like returning heroes. Not just our department, but the whole company was waiting. Director Zhou called me up to the stage and asked me to share my last-minute comeback story with the entire sales team. I let go of all my inhibitions. I stood up there like a madman and screamed at the crowd. Sisters, how are we doing today? Good. Very good. Excellent. Over 100 people roared back. The energy was electric, like an army ready for war. I stood at the front, talking smoothly, feeling like a general returning from a successful campaign. My blood was boiling. Director Zhou handed me my 2,600 yuan commission in cash. Then Ma Tsung-jing handed me my 1,200 yuan base salary. Holding that thick stack of bills was a feeling I will never forget. I swore to myself right then, I would make more. Much more. I was done with being poor. I was done with being humiliated. I was going to use money to rewrite my destiny. Later that night, Old Tang and I got drunk. He confessed that he had been scammed into a pyramid scheme years ago and was drowning in debt. He couldn't go home. He had no backup plan. If this job didn't work out, he slurred, I probably would have jumped off the bridge on Shinin Avenue. Then he looked at me. Chinbin, why did you start doing this? I froze. I slowly lowered my glass. I couldn't describe the mix of emotions inside me. Naturally, my mind drifted back to Songhua and the beautiful memories we once shared. My heart stung like it had been pricked by a needle. But I knew that part of my life was over. I wasn't that person anymore. I was never going back. The next morning, however, my phone rang. It was Songhua. What is it? I asked coldly. Are you really in Shenzhen? She asked. Yeah. I didn't want to talk. I wanted to hang up. Look, it's hard to talk on the phone. Let's meet after work. She caught the edge in my voice and chuckled. Don't overthink it. Don't I still owe you money? What? Are you so rich now that you don't want it back? Hearing her arrogant tone made my blood boil. I had slaved away in a factory to pay for her training classes and her lifestyle. That was my blood and sweat. Why wouldn't I want it back? Fine, I said. After work. I hung up and pushed her out of my mind. I had business to attend to. Old Tang and I had spent the morning planning how to squeeze more out of Baixing and Bailey. We could upsell Bailey on a website and Baixing on premium domain keywords. It could be worth tens of thousands in revenue. I lit a cigarette and went to find Ma Tsung-jing. I explained the power struggle between Xie Mingjun and Zheng Xiaojun. I trusted her completely now. She was a master of human nature and office politics. Our new department had already climbed into the company's top 3 in just 1 month because of her. She looked at me with a playful smirk. Solving that is easy, but there's something else you need to do first. I stared at her, confused. She pointed toward the floor below. Ding Z. Call her and set a date. Now. Old ma. I cursed. Are you crazy? You're the one who's crazy, she sneered. She turned to the rest of the office. Everyone, look at our big shot, Chin Bin. I'm trying to set him up with a top-tier girlfriend, and he's chickening out. Fong Ro, come here. Check if this kid is even a functioning man. Fong Ro, a loud and bold girl from Chongqing, giggled and rushed over. She hopped right onto my lap, making my face turn bright red. She wasn't a bad girl. She just loved a good joke. As soon as she felt me tense up, she jumped away, laughing. Manager, he functions just fine, she shouted. He's just out of practice. Practice makes perfect. Ma Songjing's face went stern. You heard her. Make the call. Whoever chickens out is a coward. I said those words to myself as much as to Ma Songjing. I took off my glasses, wiped them slowly with a tissue, and pulled out my phone. I wasn't going to let her win this round. What's wrong? Ma Songjing teased. Do you need to hide in the hallway to make the call? I let out a cold laugh. I'm calling my girlfriend. Why would I want to splash dog food in all your faces? The guys in the department burst into laughter. Ma Songjing's face froze like a block of ice. My counterattack had clearly caught her off guard. Feeling a surge of confidence, I headed to the smoking area and lit a cigarette. I pulled up Ding Zi's number. I hesitated for a full minute, my heart thumping, before finally hitting dial. Hello, who is this? Her voice was as pleasant as I remembered. Hello, Miss Ding. This is Chun Bin. I'm the guy who did the impression for you outside the Sunlight building. Oh, hello. I mentioned wanting to invite you for dinner a while back, I said, trying to sound casual. I've been caught up in mundane business, but I finally have a free moment. Would you do me the honor of having a light meal near the Sunlight building? We could chat more about the industry. There was a pause. Well, all right, but it has to be tonight. I get off work at 6:30. I hung up and let out a long, shaky breath. If I had tried to make this call 2 weeks ago, I would have choked. Now, I just wanted to prove Ma Songjing wrong. At noon, Ma Songjing took me to a high-end steakhouse downstairs called Hao Sun Hao. It was her choice of venue, but I was the one paying. She was eating for free, yet I actually had to thank her. Since I was meeting Ding Zi here tonight, Ma Songjing was essentially scouting the location and teaching me how to order. By the end of lunch, I was out over 300 yuan. In 2004, that was a small fortune. It felt like someone had ripped a piece of my liver out. I realized then how sinister Ma Songjing really was. She wanted to stimulate me. She wanted to poke at my desire for money and my desire for women. Her logic was simple. If you earn money, you should spend it. That's how you find the motivation to earn more. She told me a young man can afford to lose his life, but he can't afford to lose his ambition. Shenzhen is paved with gold and filled with beautiful women, she told me over her steak. But none of it belongs to you yet. Life is short. Others can have it all, but you can't? Are you okay with that? I wasn't okay with it. But I didn't need her to teach me about ambition. I needed her to teach me about the business. I asked her about the shoe factory situation. It's clear, she said. Become best friends with Xian Mingjun immediately. Drink with him, go out with him, get into his inner circle. Then, teach him how to handle his mistress. Don't fight her head on. Just dig a hole and let her destroy herself. When she ruins her own reputation, he can step in and clean up the mess. What about Jing Xiaojun? I asked. Won't she and I end up at each other's throats? Are you an idiot? Ma Songjing sneered. Zheng Xiaojun is a climber. The harder she gets stepped on, the more opportunity you have. You can never let a woman like that get what she wants. Once she has it, she'll turn on you. As long as she's desperate, she'll be your best friend. She'll act gentle and generous. She'll even sleep with you whenever you want. I stared at her, stunned. I wondered if Ma Songjing had been a mistress herself in a past life. How else could she see through people so perfectly? What are you looking at? She snapped. Remember what I said. My advice is worth way more than 300 yuan. As the workday ended, Songhua called. I had forgotten we had plans. Songhua, I can't meet tonight, I said into the phone. I have work. How can you be like this? She complained. We had a deal. You can't just change your mind. I didn't have the energy to deal with her. Let's do it another day, I said and hung up. I sent Dingzi a text and arrived at the restaurant by 6:15. I grabbed a booth by the window and sent her the table number. 20 minutes later, she appeared. She was wearing a light-colored professional suit with pencil pants that showed off her ankles. Her feet were tucked into delicate high-heeled sandals, her toes painted in vibrant colors. I stood up and waved. She nodded and walked over. I expected to be nervous, but I felt strangely calm. There's an old saying, without desire, one is strong. Looking at this incredibly beautiful girl, I realized I didn't have any ulterior motives. It wasn't that I didn't find her attractive, I just knew the massive gap between our social standings. I needed money far more than I needed a romance I couldn't afford. Dingzi didn't order much, just a coffee and a salad. She seemed preoccupied, her mood a bit low. I didn't push. I just sat with her quietly. Outside the window, the world was a chaotic blur of people, but our booth was silent. Mr. Chun, didn't you want to talk business? She asked suddenly. Or interview me? I smiled. Miss Ding, I felt like you just wanted to sit quietly for a moment. She looked at me, and a faint smile touched her lips. It was like a lily blooming. It made my heart skip a beat. Su Xuejiao was beautiful, but she triggered my instincts. Dingzi was different. She touched my soul. You asked me last time what I thought about medical beauty, she said after a long silence. What do you think about it? I took a sip of my coffee. There's a bias here. To you, medical beauty has no value because you don't need it. You already have the perfect look. But for most women, it's an irresistible temptation. The industry is going to explode. It's already starting. She smiled again. You're disagreeing with me. My opinion and your opinion don't matter, I replied. What matters is the reality of the market. She arched an eyebrow, looking slightly annoyed. Mr. Chun, what industry are you actually in? My face heated up. She had known I wasn't a journalist from the very beginning. I pushed my glasses up. I'm in the internet industry, I admitted. I see beauty as the future and the internet as the future. I think they can complement each other. She looked at me dead in the eye. Your company is on the 19th floor of the Sunlight Building, isn't it? I froze. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated embarrassment. You guys sell those Chinese domain names, don't you? Dingzi asked, her voice calm but sharp. What even is that? Who would actually type Chinese characters into an address bar? Sweat started to bead on my forehead. I realized then that Dingzi wasn't just a pretty face. She was sharp, observant, and incredibly intimidating. I felt myself starting to crumble. If this had happened a few days ago, she would have torn me apart. But as I sat there, I thought of Ma Tsong-jing. I thought about how that devil would handle a situation like this. Suddenly, a spark of inspiration hit me. I set my coffee spoon down and looked her in the eye. Miss Ding, that's exactly why I said we're both in new industries, I said, the words flowing out of me. You think it's foolish, but is it really? When VCD players first came out, everyone threw cold water on them. Even the tech experts said it was backward technology and that DVD was the future. But VCDs ended up taking over the country. They created massive companies and made people billionaires. I leaned in slightly. Now Chinese domains are here. Can you really be so sure we won't use them? It's just like how you feel about medical beauty right now. You think it has no future, but the reality is that it's exploding. Don't get stuck in a corner, Miss Ding. Betting on the future is always a game of probability. Getting it wrong is just the cost of doing business, but you can't afford not to play. I didn't blink. I kept my gaze locked on hers, feeling a strange surge of confidence. Dingzi narrowed her eyes. She looked like she was ready to go 10 rounds with me. Fine, she said, a small smirk playing on her lips. Then explain this. A domain at Wanwang only costs a few dozen yuan. Your company sells them for 200. How do you justify that? My heart sank. She knew our internal pricing. She knew everything. I was backed into a corner, but I couldn't back down now. I let out a confident laugh. Vision, Miss Ding. You have to look at the bigger picture. You're in the beauty industry. Those cosmetics and products you use, how much do they cost at a wholesale market in Guangzhou? And how much do you sell them for? That's different, she countered. We don't sell products. Exactly. I snapped my fingers. That's the point. You don't sell products, and neither do we. We sell service. We sell a vision. We're bringing the concept of the internet to small businesses that don't understand it yet. Most bosses out there still have no clue what the internet even is. I have a colleague who sold 2 email addresses to a boss who thought he had to hang one in his office and one in his house like a physical sign. Ding Z burst out laughing, covering her mouth with her hand. Don't laugh, I said, smiling. It's a true story. This is about perception. When VCDs first came out, they were thousands of yuan. Now you can get one for $100 at Huiqiangbai. That's just how an industry matures. The internet is young. We have to maintain our margins now so we can grow and survive. Dingzi took a sip of her coffee and sighed. Fine. You win. You completely defeated me. I felt incredible. Don't take it the wrong way, Miss Ding. I was just talking. I know you're under a lot of pressure at work, and so am I. Think of this as a little post-work brainstorm. She just smiled and didn't say anything else, but she seemed to be in a much better mood. We sat for a while longer until she checked her watch. Oh, it's past 9, she said. Chinbin, let's call it a night. Thanks for dinner and the coffee. Let's talk again soon. I didn't try to force her to stay. I paid the bill and walked her to the door. After she left, I pulled out a cigarette and lit it, feeling a sense of relief. Then, a voice came from right behind me. Chinbin, you said you were working. What are you doing here? I spun around. It was Songhua. I just smiled at her. Are you that desperate to pay me back? Did you suddenly hit the jackpot? She looked stunned and embarrassed. What's with that face? I continued. Are you short on cash? If you don't have the money, why did you ask to meet? To waste my time. I waved her off and started walking away. Stop right there, Chinbin, she yelled. I turned back. You're working at Buyua Technology, aren't you? Do you even know what kind of company that is? It's a high-pressure tech firm. They have brutal standards and a massive turnover rate. You think you can handle that? Don't push yourself. Just because you put on a shirt and tie doesn't mean you're a real Shenzhen professional yet. You're nowhere near. I laughed. There were only 4 words in my head for her. None of your business, I said clearly, making sure she heard the bite in my voice. I walked away feeling like I was on top of the world. The next morning, I got to the office early. The Sunlight building was still quiet. I ran into the elevator and realized I wasn't alone. A woman was standing there. She wore high heels and was nearly as tall as me. She was stunning, but her face was like ice. She practically radiated a do-not-disturb energy. Manager Gao, I said, nodding. This was Gao Yin, the manager of Sales Department 1. Her team was the strongest in the company. Last month, their revenue was triple ours. I felt a deep sense of dread around the managers here. If Ma Songjing was a freak, Gao Yin, who ranked first among the 8 managers, was definitely no saint. The silence in the elevator was suffocating. Your name is Chinbin? She asked suddenly. Yes, Manager Gao. She didn't say another word until the elevator reached the 19th floor. I stepped aside to let her out first. As she walked past, she glanced back at me. Bailey's shoes belongs to Department 1, she said coldly. I froze. I remembered Old Tang's incredible performance with Boss Liu at Bailey's Shoes. The man already had a Chinese domain, but Old Tang had hustled him into spending another 10,000 yuan. I felt a sudden chill as Gao Yin was clearly furious that we had snatched a client she considered hers. During the morning meeting, Ma Songjing pulled me and Old Tang aside. The 13,000 you took from Bailey's Shoes is fine, Ma said. Domains are fair game, and whoever signs the deal gets the money. But you're off the website project, as that's Department 1's territory now. I realized then what Gao Yan's warning meant. But the trouble wasn't over, because as we left Ma's office, a guy from Department 1 was waiting for us. He was smiling, but it didn't reach his eyes. Manager Ma, sorry to bother you, he said smoothly. I recognized him from the sales leaderboards. This was when Xiaobin, the star of Department 1. In Buyua Technology, performance was everything. Managers were promoted from the top sellers and directors from the top managers. With 40 branches nationwide and more opening, a star like Wen Xiaobin was on the fast track to power. And right now, he was looking directly at us. Wen Xiaobin chatted with Ma Songjing for a moment, then turned to me with a thin, sharp smile. Chinbin, he said, Golden Industry is my client now. I froze. My face went pale. I had spent the entire last month grinding on website leads, and Golden Industry was my strongest prospect. I was literally preparing to close them. Now, in a heartbeat, they belonged to someone else. I realized then that I was being targeted. Someone was using the company's internal rules to hijack my hard work. I was a rookie, and my ignorance of the system had left a door wide open for them to rob me. My heart bled with frustration, but mostly, I was furious. When Xiaobin's attitude was unbearable, that fake, smiling face masking a deep, calculated contempt. I wanted to scream at him, to ask him if being a sales engineer made him a god, but I held my tongue. Where there are people, there is a battlefield. And on this battlefield, I had just been stabbed in the back. Ma Songjing acted like nothing was wrong. She cheerfully called me into a meeting room and shut the door. The second the latch clicked, her smile vanished. I just checked the protection system, Ma said coldly. Golden Industry was put under system protection late last night. We're being targeted. I expected her to give me a strategy, or maybe some comfort, or even a lecture. Instead, she sighed. Bin, this was my oversight. I didn't tell you that the website division has a client protection mechanism. Don't worry. Whatever commission Department 1 makes off that deal, I'll pay you the equivalent out of my own pocket. She paused, her eyes narrowing. Not only that, but for this month, every website lead from Department 8 goes through you. You spent last month learning the technical side. This month, I want you to use it. I couldn't believe my ears. Ma Songjing, the woman I considered a manipulative shark, was suddenly being generous? Then it clicked. She wasn't doing this for me. She was hurting more than I was. She was a manager brought in from the Guangzhou branch, and in her first month, she had climbed to third in the company rankings. She had too much momentum. Now, because Old Tang and I had snatched a 13,000 yuan deal from Department 1, their pride was wounded. I was just a small pawn in their game. But she was the manager of Department 8. If she let them trample her now, she'd never survive in Shenzhen. Old Ma, I said, looking her in the eye. Give it to me straight. What do you want from me? Simple, she replied. I want you to break into the company's top 3 sales leaderboard this month. You met Wen Xiaobin, right? Look at how arrogant he is. He's a sales engineer. What are you? A junior rep who just passed probation. If you want to stand on his level, you're going to become a sales engineer this month. I want you to step on him. I want you to grind him into the floor. I was stunned. The jump from junior rep to sales engineer was 2 tiers up. To get there, you needed 2 things. Hit the top 3 monthly rankings once, and either maintain 40,000 in sales for 3 months, or hit 100,000 in a single month. Ma Songjing was insane. She wanted me to conquer the leaderboard in 30 days. If you agree, she continued, I'll make the entire department support you. Every resource will be yours. If you don't, I'll go find Fong Ro. I wanted to slap her. She was dangling Fong Ro over my head again like a threat. It was pure, cold-blooded manipulation. Why me? I asked. Bin, stop asking why, she snapped. An opportunity is staring you in the face, and you're acting like a coward. If you're going to be a loser, fine. I'll go talk to Fong Ro. I jumped out of my chair. Fine. I'll do it. And stop using her to bait me. Ma's face changed instantly, turning back into a pleasant mask. Good. I knew I didn't misjudge you. Get ready. This afternoon, we're heading to Baixing Shoe Factory. I'm coming with you. You handle Boss Xia. I'll handle his mistress. I'll go in as the company's design director. She called the rest of the department into the office. When they came out, they looked like they were ready for war. Fong Ro walked over and patted my shoulder. I've got 2 website leads, she said fiercely. We'll work them together. Let's kill those bastards in Department 1. Then came Song Xiaobo and Zhang Jing. I had to hand it to Ma Songjing. Her ability to brainwash people was world-class. She had taken a disgusting situation and used it to set the entire department on fire. Everyone has a competitive streak, and she had just lit the fuse. At lunch, I thought about her move. She didn't pick me because she liked me. She picked me because I was the only one in Department 8 who actually understood how to plan a website. Selling websites was hard and slow compared to the fast food sales of domain names. But once you sold a domain, the client trusted you, and a website was the natural next step. By making me the designated closer for websites, she freed up everyone else to focus on high-speed domain sales. She was optimizing her resources while claiming it was a revolution against oppression. It was brilliant. That afternoon at the shoe factory, Ma Songjing played her role perfectly. As the design director, she took photos and discussed technical details with Zheng Xiaojun, the mistress. Meanwhile, Old Tang and I took the boss, Xie Mingjun, out for drinks. Old Xie was a straight shooter. After a few rounds, he spilled everything. He had been with the owner for 20 years and ran the place. But this new girl, Zheng Xiaojun, was trying to push him out and steal his thunder. He hated her, but he couldn't get rid of her. Brother Xie, I said, leaning in. That's easy to fix. I laid out the plan Ma Songjing had whispered to me earlier. Xie Mingjun stared at me for a full minute. Then, he slapped his thigh and roared. Kid, from now on, you're my brother. I'm going to make that woman regret ever crossing me. Old Tang and I nearly doubled over laughing. The ice was broken. We were in. I'm taking care of the second half of the night, Xie said with a lecherous grin. I knew exactly what that meant. That night, I saw things I'd only heard stories about. Massive fish tanks where the fish were beautiful women in every style imaginable. It was the legendary nightlife of the early 2000s. I had a bit of a germaphobe streak, so I stayed on the sidelines. But the next morning, Old Tang told me he spent the whole night trying to convince the girl he was with to quit the business and find a real job. I fell over laughing. I could only imagine the girl's confused face. But in this city, no one judged Old Tang. He paid his money, and in this world, if you have the cash, you get exactly what you want. That was the soul of the business. And I was finally starting to learn how to play the game. I didn't know exactly what tricks Ma Songjing used, but he got Zheng Xiaojun handled. When he came back, he was holding a domain name contract worth 20,000 yuan. He called Old Tang and me into his office and tossed the paper on the desk. He told us he'd put the deal under my name and that Old Tang and I would split the commission down the middle. Old Tang didn't complain. Why would he? He just made 2,000 yuan for doing absolutely nothing. Then Ma Songjing turned to me. He reminded me that as the top salesperson, I'd have to get on stage at the morning meeting to share my experience. He asked if I knew what to say. I gave him a sly grin. I told him I'd say I wasn't actually good at selling domains and that this 20,000 yuan deal was pure luck. I'd tell them my real strength was in building websites. Ma Songjing stared at me for a full minute before bursting into a loud laugh. He called me a closet freak and said I was even more devious than he thought. He loved the idea. The next morning, the energy in the room was electric. It was the start of a new month, and I was the reigning champion because of that massive deal. Under the thunderous applause of over 100 people, Director Zhou invited me onto the stage. I acted the part perfectly. I made my face go red. I looked nervous and lacked confidence. I told the crowd I wasn't good at selling domains and that this win was just a fluke. I told them I spent all my time studying websites, and that was where my real talent lay. The room erupted. Everyone started whispering. Director Zhou smiled at the crowd and used me as a weapon. He asked the veteran sales elites if they felt ashamed. Here was a guy claiming he wasn't good at the job, yet he'd just closed a 20,000 yuan deal on day one. He handed me 4,000 yuan in cash. I gripped the bills in my hand, fanning them out like a deck of cards. I could see the raw desire in the eyes of everyone in the room. Then Ma Songjing took the stage. His acting was even better than mine. He acted shy, like a young girl who'd just arrived in the city. He claimed he knew nothing and felt guilty because his lack of experience had caused the department to lose leads. He bowed to every single one of us. He called himself a waiter whose only job was to serve the heroes on the front lines. The staff and department aide were fired up. They looked ready to die for him. I was the only one watching from the sidelines, quietly observing his performance. This man was a genius. He used a single opportunity to manipulate everyone. Internally, he had his staff screaming with loyalty. Externally, he played the weakling. He also knew exactly how to handle Director Zhou. Zhou wanted the managers to fight, so his own position stayed secure. Ma Songjing played into that perfectly. He was the outsider from Guangzhou, the troublemaker sent to stir the pot. Since the other managers hated him, he leaned on Director Zhou for protection. Later, while I was out for a smoke, I happened to run into Director Zhou. He was all smiles. He told me I'd done great work in just 1 month and that the company rewarded hard work. He promised me a special prize if I kept it up until the end of the month. I acted grateful, realizing my own acting skills were improving every day. Once the department roles were set, I spent every day in the field. I used to be introverted and felt inferior around rich bosses, but now I was meeting several a day. Local bosses, Hong Kongers, Taiwanese, I saw them all. I grew comfortable. I remembered Ma Songjing's lesson. Don't ask what the client wants. Tell them what you've planned for them. My vision expanded, and so did my greed. I wanted money. Lots of it. I kept a book in my bag and read every second I was on the bus or waiting for a meeting. I started developing my own tactics. If I visited a company, I'd immediately go to their biggest competitor and play them against each other. I used their professional jealousy to close deals fast. I also started timing my meetings for lunch or dinner. If a boss offered to buy me a meal, it meant they respected me. It meant I could lean harder into my role as their consultant. Ma Songjing gave me more advice too. He told me the idea of making friends before doing business was total nonsense. Without business, there are no friends. If a boss calls you a friend but won't give you a contract, he doesn't actually trust you. But once the contract is signed and the work begins, you become real friends naturally. My goal became laser-focused. Close the deal. Everything else was noise. I took the high-pressure, brainwashing tactics from the domain sales side and brought them into my website pitches. I spoke with passion. I painted grand pictures of the future. The bigger the boss, the more they loved a grand vision. The results were instant. I started signing deals on my own. My first independent website deal was almost funny. The client was a guy in his 30s named Deng Kaijin who ran a lighting factory. He was a simple, honest guy. He picked me up from the bus stop in his Bluebird car and spent the whole drive complaining about how hard it was to manage his factory. He was losing materials, things were getting stolen, and his warehouse was a mess. His factory only had about 30 people. I joked that if he built a website, I could solve his problems. He took me seriously and agreed on the spot. Just like that, I had a 15,000 yuan contract. I took his money, but I felt bad, so I actually helped him. I drew up a floor plan, partitioned a section of the factory for a warehouse, and told him to put one guy at the door to log everything coming in and out. It took me 30 minutes to solve the problem that had been giving him a headache for months. That was Shenzhen in 2004. The manufacturing world was booming, and the opportunities were everywhere if you knew how to grab them. Manufacturing was a goldmine back then. It was the golden age of the factory, and if you knew how to play the game, money was everywhere. I headed back to the office with a bag full of cash. As luck would have it, I ran into Gao Yin, the head of Department 1, in the elevator. I looked like a mess, dusty, tired, and clearly coming back from a client meeting. Gao Yin maintained his usual cold, aloof persona. "Manager Gao," I said, nodding. He gave a stiff nod back, playing the part of the big leader perfectly. I didn't say anything else. I just leaned against the back wall of the elevator, clutching my bag. "Signed a deal?" he asked suddenly. "Just trying my best," I replied. "New employees need time to grow," Gao Yin said, his voice laced with hidden needles. "Your manager Ma likes to rush things. That nurturing list you're on this month, he signed that for you, didn't he?" A month ago, I wouldn't have known how to handle a comment like that. But I'd been through the ringer lately. I'd read enough history to know how people played these power games. I smiled. "Rush things? I wouldn't say that. But I'd definitely agree that he's a meddler." I told him I'd handle the signing myself, but he insisted on playing the teacher. He was so afraid I'd lose the deal that he stepped in and only signed them for 5 years. I usually sell 10-year packages. If I'd gone alone, my performance for the month would already be at 40,000. The air in the elevator went dead silent. The other people didn't understand what we were talking about, but they felt the tension. When the doors opened on the 19th floor, I caught a glimpse of Gao Yan's face. It was turning a sickly shade of green. I walked into my department with a smirk. Everyone was there. I pointed to a large brass gong hanging by the door. "Old Ma, what the hell is that gong for?" Ma Songjing was buried in his computer, but he jumped out of his chair like he'd been struck by lightning. "You don't know? We're celebrating." "Celebrating what?" The whole department shouted in unison. "Sign a deal, get the cash, beat the drum, and hit the gong." I stared at them. My God, Old Ma had brainwashed these guys completely. I took a deep breath and yelled at the top of my lungs. Then what are you waiting for? I'm back. Hit the damn gong. You think I'm a joke? Hell yeah. Ma Tsung-jing grabbed a massive wooden mallet and started wailing on the gong. Dong, dong, dong. The sound echoed through the entire floor. I pulled 15,000 yuan in cash out of my bag and tossed it right at his face. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Gao Yin watching from the hallway. His face got even darker. Ma Tsung-jing was a devious bastard. He acted weak on the surface, but his hidden moves were lethal. Department 1 and Department 8 were usually far apart, but he hung that gong right where everyone had to hear it. Every time we closed a deal, he was rubbing their noses in it. Technically, the 15,000 was for Fong Ro's client, so I had to split it with her. My personal cut was 7,500. Once I handed the cash to finance, the numbers hit the internal network immediately. Gao Yin went straight to General Manager Zhou's office, fuming. He complained that Department 8 was funneling all their deals through one person to cheat the system. Manager Zhou, a classic smiling tiger, called Ma Tsung-jing in. Ma put on his best wronged face. I can't help it, Mr. Zhou, Manager Gao, Ma said with a sigh. Department 8 is new. My staff are still learning. Chen Bin is the only one who knows how to pitch websites. The others practically beg him to help. Our company culture is about teamwork, right? If the chemistry is there, I can't break them apart. He paused, sounding exhausted. Selling websites is a nightmare anyway. It's a lot of work for very little reward. Selling domains is easy. One phone call, and you've got 30,000 in sales. For websites, we have to plan, design, and provide maintenance. It's backbreaking work for pennies. I had to force Chen Bin to do it. Someone has to sacrifice for the clients, right? While the managers were locked in their power struggle, I went out for a smoke and accidentally ran into Wen Xiaobin. He was leaning against a wall, puffing on a cigarette, and holding a fancy Nokia 7610. Chen Bin, he said, squinting at me. 27,000 isn't enough to break into the top 3. Even double that wouldn't be enough. I flicked my ash. Blame Manager Ma. I told him to sell 10 years, but he insisted on 5. It put me in a tough spot. If things don't work out, I'll just go back to that boss and get him to renew for another 5. When Xiaobin flinched, I'd hit a nerve. He had sold a 5-year domain to the Bell Shoe Factory, and then Old Tang and I had gone behind him to renew it for another 5. It had made him the laughingstock of Department 1. You want to make things interesting? He sneered. A little wager. 5,000 yuan. Whoever has the higher performance at the end of the month wins. I laughed. That's not fair. You'd be losing money. Your performance is way lower than mine right now. I'd be taking advantage of you. When Xiaobin looked like he was about to cough up blood. He was a veteran sales king, being looked down upon by a rookie. But it was true. He only had about 10,000 in sales for the month so far. He wanted to say the gap didn't matter, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. A 3-year veteran betting against a newbie was embarrassing enough. He packed his things and left early, still fuming. He went to a fancy restaurant called Hao Shangho to clear his head. His mood only brightened when a beautiful woman stopped at his table. Hello, are you Mr. Wen Xiaobin? I am. And you're Songhua? Yes, she said, sitting down. My company is recruiting business managers on behalf of Sugao Tech. They view you as a top-tier elite. I'm here to discuss an offer. When Xiaobin considered it, he'd been thinking about jumping ship anyway. What are the terms? A base salary of 6,000 plus tiered commissions, Songhua said. With your talent, making over 10,000 a month would be easy. When Xiaobin let out a cold laugh and tossed his spoon onto the table. 6,000 base? Do they think I'm a beggar? Songhua froze. In 2004, a 6,000 yuan base salary for a sales manager was top of the market. She wondered just how much this guy was making. 20,000? 30? I'll relay your feedback, she said quickly. But before I go, Mr. One, I wanted to ask if you know someone. She didn't expect what happened next. The moment she spoke, when Xiaobin's face twisted into something monstrous. Mr. One, do you know a man named Chen Bin? When Xiaobin nearly flipped the table, his calm demeanor shattered into pure rage. Him? That piece of trash? Let me tell you about Chen Bin. I've been at Buyue Shenzhen for 3 years now. Back when I was pulling in over 10,000 a month, Chen Bin was still just a star student playing house. How can he even compare to me? I'm telling you right now, I don't care about anyone else this month. I am going to bury Chinbin. I'll ruin him. I looked at the girl sitting across from me, Songhua, and sneered. Little girl, you're not seriously thinking about headhunting a brand new trainee from our company, are you? Has Sugao Tech fallen that low? Songhua looked panicked, waving her hands frantically. No, it's not like that. I didn't give her the chance to explain. I let out a cold snort, grabbed my bag, and walked out, leaving her standing there looking like a complete idiot. A moment later, Songhua's phone rang. It was her boss. Songhua, how did the talk go? It failed, Songhua admitted, her voice trembling. The people at Boyue are too arrogant. Why are they so cocky? Her boss sighed over the line. They're the leaders in internet marketing right now. People call them the Whampoa Military Academy of the industry. Anyone who comes out of Boyue is guaranteed a job. For an elite like Wen Xiaobin, headhunters get a 10,000 yuan commission just for signing him. That's more than what listed companies pay for mid-level executives. Keep trying. Songhua hung up, feeling drained. She still couldn't wrap her head around it. She decided she needed to dig deeper into Boyue's secrets. Meanwhile, I had no idea any of this was happening. After work, I headed straight for a jewelry store on the first floor. Before I joined Boyue, Su Xuejiao had spent over 1,000 yuan buying me clothes. Now that I finally had some breathing room, I needed to pay her back. But handing her cash felt too cold, especially given how complicated things were between us lately. I figured a gift of equal value was the better move. As I walked out of the gold shop, I ran right into Ding Zi. Chinbin, what are you buying? Why are you hiding it? She asked, tilting her head. I gave her a sheepish grin and pulled the bag out, showing the gold shop's logo. Just a little something. I don't have much money, so I got a small pendant necklace for Su Xuejiao. For your girlfriend? Ding Zi squinted at me, a playful look in her eyes. I just gave a dumb smile, letting her believe what she wanted. That brainstorming session we had gave me a lot of inspiration, Ding Zi said, changing the subject. If it pays off in practice, I'll have a reward for you later. She waved her hand and walked past me, her scent lingering in the air. I watched her silhouette fade away, thinking that all the beauty in the world was captured in that one fleeting moment. Back at home, Su Xuejiao was thrilled. She put on the necklace and strutted in front of me like a runway model. But I could tell something was off. She was missing that wild spark she usually had, that untamed energy that made her who she was. I asked her what was wrong. She went quiet for a long time before finally speaking. Old Ma got screwed over recently. What happened? I asked. I partnered with Zheng Xiaojun to set up a leather processing plant, she explained. We were supposed to supply Baixing's shoe factory. But before we could even send the first shipment, Zheng Xiaojun got played. Baixing blocked us. They won't take the goods. My expression turned strange. I was the one who gave Xian Mingjun the idea to screw over Zheng Xiaojun. I had no idea Su Xuejiao was caught in the crossfire. She told me they had over 100,000 yuan worth of materials sitting there. The leather was custom cut specifically for Baixing's patterns. If Baixing didn't take it, the stock was worthless. The worst part? Zheng Xiaojun provided the connections, but Su Xuejiao provided the cash. All 100,000 yuan belonged to her. In 2004, losing that much money was enough to break anyone. Go find Zheng Xiaojun, I said. He promised he had the connections. It's his fault it failed. He should be responsible. Su Xuejiao let out a bitter laugh. I've got nothing to hold over him. If I go to him now, all I'll do is burn the bridge. I'll never see that money again. I looked at her deeply, realizing for the first time how much pressure she was under. I lit a cigarette, smoked half of it, and then spoke. Xuejiao, I might be able to help you with this. Her eyes snapped to mine. Chinbin, if you can get that money back, I'll give you half. I blinked, stunned by her decisiveness. Offering 50,000 yuan just like that showed a level of ruthlessness and grit that surprised me. Let's try this, I said, thinking it through. To fix this, we need to make the business work. Have you ever met Xie Mingju? She shook her head. How could I? My deal with Zheng Xiaojun was basically a plot to siphon money from Baixing. Xie and Zheng are rivals. If I show my face, it's over. Fine. If Zheng Xiaojun can't do it, we'll go through Xie Mingjun. We'll see if we can start the deal fresh. I stepped onto the balcony and called Xie Mingjun immediately. He sounded like he'd been drinking. Bin, my brother. Get down to Buji right now. I'm hosting tonight. I hung up and shouted for Su Xuejiao. Let's go. Buji now. She drove us from Bowen to Buji as fast as she could. I went in to see Siem Mingjun alone. The guy was already rowdy, pulling at my arm. Let's go, let's go. I've got it all arranged. I knew exactly what arranged meant. Another night of high-end KTV girls and services. The last time I went with him, it was miserable. I was a young guy with plenty of fire, but I was also a bit of a germaphobe. I couldn't bring myself to go through with it, which just made the whole night a tease. Brother Xia, I actually have something to talk to you about. I started. He waved his hand dismissively. Business can wait. You helped me out big time with your advice. If I don't treat you right today, I don't deserve to be called your big brother. There was no stopping him. Once we were inside, he picked 2 girls for himself and pointed out a tall, 1'7" girl for me. She was supposed to be the star of the place. As soon as we were alone, she looked at me and sighed. Honey, why do you look so tense? The boss already paid. Whatever you want to do, I'm yours for the night. I couldn't do it. I bolted out of there, feeling like a total failure, and scrambled back into Su Xuejiao's car parked at the curb. Why are you out already? She asked, a smirk playing on her lips. Do you even know what kind of place that is? I know exactly what it is, I snapped. She burst out laughing. Men, I know how you guys are. The streetlights were dim, but I could feel that wild energy radiating off her again. Like a cat, she climbed from the driver's seat into the back with me. She dove into my arms, her hands immediately finding their mark. The girl inside had already pushed me to my limit, and I'd barely escaped with my sanity. Now, with Su Xuejiao, I had no reason to hold back. What followed was a much more intense and visceral experience than that day in Zhongshan Park. Every time a pedestrian walked past the car, the risk of being seen only added to the thrill. When it was over, Su Xuejiao giggled, burying her head in the crook of my arm. I have to say, you're getting more impressive every time. She was happy. She knew I hadn't touched the girl inside the club. As I calmed down, I felt as peaceful as a monk. I went back into the club a little while later. Xie Mingjun was finished with his business too. We sat in the lounge area, drinking tea and eating fruit. I waited for the right moment and leaned in. Brother Xie, a factory as big as yours must go through a lot of leather, right? Could you outsource some of the leather processing to me? I asked, keeping my voice steady. I have a friend in the business. Everyone says your word is law around here. Xie Mingjun narrowed his eyes at me. He let out a dark, low chuckle. Kid, if anyone else asked me that, I'd have kicked them out already. But since it's you, I have to give you some face. Just know, there's a lot of risk involved. If the boss finds out, I lose my job. I understood immediately. Everyone was just looking for a way to make money. My only worry had been that he wouldn't give me the chance. Now that the door was cracked open, the rest was easy. We reached an agreement quickly. He would open a gap in the supply chain for me, and in return, I'd pay him 10,000 yuan a month. Back in 2004, 10,000 was an astronomical sum. My heart hammered against my ribs. I excused myself to the restroom and called Su Xuejiao. Holy crap, she whispered over the phone. This Xie guy is actually decent. Zheng Xiaojun wanted to take half the profits for herself. The next morning, I headed to the Baixing shoe factory. Su Xuejiao couldn't show her face there, so I had to handle the logistics. I didn't go to Xie Mingjun first. Instead, I grabbed my bag and walked into the accounting office. Zheng Xiaojun looked exhausted. Xie Mingjun had mentioned digging a hole for her yesterday, and it looked like she had fallen straight in. She'd been put through the ringer. I acted like I knew nothing and flashed her a bright smile. Sister June, the website homepage is done. Your modeling is incredible. I pulled up a flash demo on my laptop. There she was, her bare legs leading down to a pair of small red leather shoes. She looked enchanting. I had to admit, the woman was beautiful, especially those ivory-smooth legs. It was the kind of sight that made a man want to lose his mind. Oh, your company is fast, she chirped. She personally poured me a cup of tea, her attitude incredibly sweet and attentive. I thought about what my boss, Ma Songjing, had said. He called her a bottom feeder, the type you can never let get what they want. I remembered the last time I was here. She had been so cold, hiding behind company rules and procedures with her head held high. Now, That same woman was blooming like a flower in front of me, her warmth flowing like water. After tea and some small talk, I found Xie Mingjun. He gave me a knowing smirk, tossed, and turned half the night. And your legs aren't soft yet? You come in here and immediately start flirting. I laughed. Brother, you've got her so shaken she's practically leaking. Why not treat her like a goddess for a bit? Light some incense for her. She still has the boss behind her, after all. Give her all the face she wants, then strip her down to her underwear. Isn't that the way? Xie Mingjun roared with laughter, pointing a finger at me. You really are a young hero. When I was your age, I wasn't fit to carry your shoes. Why not stay in Buji today? The good spots open up this afternoon. I wasn't about to go through another round of debauchery with him. I had work to do. After finishing up with Xie, I sent the paperwork to Su Xuejiao. I told her that under no circumstances could Jing Xiaojun find out about this. Don't worry, Su Xuejiao said, her voice full of excitement. I've been guarding against that woman since day one. She doesn't even know where my factory is. I'll arrange the first shipment of leather this afternoon. 1 batch every 3 days. If we keep this pace, the business will finally start moving. I hung up, my opinion of her shifting. I had visited her factory yesterday. It was just a dilapidated old shack. The moment you stepped inside, the stench of the nearby sewer hit you. The warehouse was crammed with goods. She didn't hire many people, just a few older women, and she did the heavy lifting herself. She was a country girl who grew up on hard work. Behind her glamorous exterior was a lot of hidden pain. She told me she only had about 100,000 yuan left. If this leather deal failed, she was finished. She might have had to sell her house. She called me her benefactor. Being a benefactor meant that after a long day of work, I went back to her place to shower, only for her to charge at me like a wild mare. She tangled herself around me on the living room sofa, and for a moment, all the stress of the factory disappeared. It felt damn good. Afterward, she sat across my lap, looking satisfied. I, on the other hand, felt like my legs were made of jelly. I left Buji and caught a bus toward Longhua to visit more clients. As we passed the industrial zone near Golden Locks, I thought of Wen Xiaobing. Ma Songjing had just sent me a text. Wen Xiaobing had signed a contract worth 23,000 yuan. Her total sales were over 30,000 now. If she snatched the Golden Locks account too, I wouldn't have a prayer of catching her. I had that deal 90% finished before she swooped in and stole it. With her skills, she was a juggernaut. But I realized something. It had been 10 days since she took over the lead, and the contract still wasn't signed. I yelled for the driver to stop. I grabbed my bag and ran toward the Golden Locks factory. I had to lock this deal down. The company's lead protection system had a time limit. She couldn't keep it protected forever. The owner, Mr. Peng, was from Hubei. He was a talker and a bit of a braggart. He wore a thick gold chain and spent his time fiddling with a pair of walnuts in his palm. When he saw me, he waved me over. Xiao Chun, where have you been? A girl named Wen from your company came by. She said you were sent to Beijing for elite business training and that she was taking over. She wanted to sign the contract 2 days ago, but I held off. I realized Wen Xiaobing's game. She had praised me to lower his guard. I couldn't call her a liar, so I played along. I was in Beijing, I said. But during training, we aren't allowed to do anything else. I took a couple of days off to come back to Shenzhen. Mr. Peng, if you aren't in a rush, we have a new smart website technology coming out soon. Once it's built, your own staff can change anything they want. I came here specifically to tell you about it. Mr. Peng waved a hand dismissively. I'm not in a rush. We can wait until you're back from Beijing to sign. I smiled. He looked rough, but he was sharp. He knew there were games being played behind the scenes. We sat and drank tea while he bragged about his atomic locks. He claimed his technology was years ahead of the market, calling his product the ultimate anti-theft solution. I played the part of the supportive listener. Mr. Peng, if the product is this good, we need to get it to the masses. Everyone should be using these. He set his walnuts on the table and took a sip of tea. Xiao Chun, you hit the nail on the head. Marketing is our top priority right now. I refuse to compete with those traditional lock makers on their level. My marketing has to crush them. It has to be superior. He started gesturing wildly, painting a passionate picture of his vision. If he weren't running a factory, he could have been a top salesman at my company. After his performance, he looked at me. Xiao Chun, you're an elite. You must have some unique insights into marketing. Since you're here today, tell me what you think. Give me some ideas, Mr. Peng said, leaning in. I froze for a second. The only reason he thought I was an elite was because when Xiaobing had inflated my ego earlier to mock me. I didn't know the first thing about high-level marketing, but I had spent weeks building this consultant persona with Mr. Peng, and with when Xiaobing's endorsement still ringing in his ears, I couldn't just sit there like a statue. I picked up my teacup and took a slow sip, buying myself time to think. Suddenly, an old legend about a king buying the bones of 1,000 gold horse flashed through my mind. I had my spark. Mr. Peng, I started, setting the cup down. The strongest selling point of your atomic lock is security, right? It's the safest lock in history. No one can pick it. Mr. Peng nodded vigorously. Exactly. No one. I don't care what kind of master locksmith they are, they can't touch my locks. Then it's simple, I said, my voice gaining confidence. Offer a reward. Announce a nationwide challenge with 100,000 yuan prize for anyone who can open it. Invite all the mainstream media to witness it. Journalists love a gimmick. Once you put that money on the table, all eyes will be on you. Your brand will explode overnight. The room went silent. Peng looked like he'd been hit by a freezing spell. He sat perfectly still for a full minute. Then, he slammed his hand on the table, threw his walnuts aside, and burst into a roar of laughter. Genius! Xiaochun, you are a total genius, he shouted. An elite is an elite. One casual thought from you is better than months of planning from my entire team. He didn't wait. He summoned his entire executive team right then and there. He repeated my idea to them with manic energy, pointing at me with pride. Do you see this? This is the golden idea Xiaochun gave us. When we become famous, we owe it to him. My face turned bright red from the praise, but as I thought about it more, the plan actually felt solid. When it was finally time to leave, Mr. Peng insisted on walking me all the way to the gate. He shook my hand firmly. In your company, I only recognize you, he said. Nobody else matters. Those words kept me glowing all day. Even though I failed to sign 2 other clients in Longhua later that afternoon, I didn't care. When I got back to the office, the atmosphere was buzzing. Fong Rou and Old Tang had both closed deals. Fong Rou got a 12,000 yuan domain contract, and Old Tang secured a 5,000 yuan deal. It was Old Tang's first independent win. He was beaming and whispered to me that the drinks were on him tonight. I truly admired him. He had zero sales technique. He literally just read a script off a piece of paper. But he had the stamina of an ox. He would call from morning until night without even stopping for water. He proved that even if you aren't perfect, sheer repetition leads to results. I went out for a smoke and ran into Wen Xiaobing. He was on top of the world. He'd signed a massive deal, pushing his monthly performance over 30,000 yuan. He was surrounded by a group of brown-nosers, a cigarette dangling arrogantly from his lip. Chen Bin, he called out. He sauntered over as I lit up. I need you to cooperate. I'm officially in charge of the Golden Lock Industry account now. Give me the proposal and the price quotes you prepared for them. Internally, I was laughing. Externally, I put on a show of righteous fury. Why? No way. When Xiaobing gave me a dark, smug smile. He crushed his cigarette into the ashtray and walked off. Minutes later, he was back with Gao Yin and our boss, Ma Songjing. Chen Bin, don't be like this, Ma Songjing said, his voice oily. We have rules. You need to think about the big picture. Teamwork, right? Hand over the files to Mr. Wen immediately. When Xiaobing snatched the documents from my hand, his head held high. He thought he was humiliating me. He thought he had stolen my client and forced me to bow down. He finally felt like he'd won. Ma Songjing took the opportunity to drag the whole department into a meeting for another brainwashing session. By the time we got out, everyone's eyes were bloodshot with forced motivation. My friend Zhang Le cornered me afterward. That bastard one is taking it too far, Zhang Le hissed. I'll find some guys to jump him in an alley tonight. My face went pale. I grabbed his arm. Relax, brother. We're here to make money, not go to jail. If you really want to help me, let's just collaborate and close more deals together. Ma Songjing was no fool, though. After work ended, he called my cell. Chen Bin, what's the real story with Golden Lock Industry? I let out a cold laugh. Just tell me how long the company's protection period for a lead lasts. Ma Songjing chuckled darkly. You've got a sharp mind, kid. You're starting to sound like me. Just be careful. Don't sabotage the company's interests too obviously. The next morning was beautiful. Perfect weather for signing contracts. When Xiaobing didn't even come to the office. He headed straight to Longgang, determined to lock down the Golden Lock deal. He was experienced and knew exactly what the client wanted. A few days ago, the quote was 13,000, but he had padded it with extra features to push it over 20,000. He was confident. As he traveled, he calculated his commission. With this deal, he'd hit 50,000 for the month. Between his base salary and the tiered commission, he'd clear over 10,000 yuan. But more than the money, he wanted the title of sales champion. He wanted to prove he was the king of the Shenzhen branch and put me in my place once and for all. Inside the factory, Peng Hongba was sipping tea when Xiaobing walked in with a flattering grin. Mr. Peng, sitting there, you look like a general commanding 10,000 troops. Truly powerful. Mr. Peng laughed. He had been in a great mood since yesterday. His marketing meeting had been a massive success. He had decided to up the ante, a 1 million yuan reward for anyone who could pick his lock. It was a stunt, a giant hook for the media, and his team was convinced it would work. When Xiaobing sat and listened to Mr. Peng brag for an hour, playing the perfect hype man. Eventually, he couldn't hold back anymore. Mr. Peng, when Xiaobing said, should we finalize the website contract? We need the site ready to coordinate with this big marketing push. Mr. Peng waved his hand dismissively. No rush on that. Listen, Xiaowen, once this million yuan challenge goes viral, your current website plan will be obsolete. That design won't match the new height of my company. Let's put it on hold. We'll build something much bigger later. When Xiaobing stared at him, completely stunned. He had spent the morning listening to this man talk nonsense, only for the deal to vanish. Mr. Peng, when Xiaobing stammered, the website can't wait. A huge campaign, without a site to back it up? It won't work. When Xiaobing was a seasoned sales professional, and he knew how to talk, he launched into a passionate pitch, painting a picture of a modernized, high-tech future for Gold Lock Industries. He told Mr. Peng that once the website was live, distributors from all over the country could visit virtually. It would be a digital showroom, a testament to the company's power. Mr. Peng listened intently, but I could tell he was wavering. Sensing an opening, when Xiaobing didn't wait, he pulled out the contract and started filling in the details right there. It was a classic sales tactic, create an assumption of the deal. Even if it failed, all he lost was a piece of paper. By the way, Xiaowen, Mr. Peng asked casually, sipping his tea. What's the deal with Chen Bin? You mentioned him last time. When Xiaobing didn't miss a beat. Chen Bin? Oh, he was selected for our headquarters elite training camp. He's in Beijing right now. Before he left, he specifically told me to take the best care of Gold Lock Industries. He wanted your website to be the gold standard for the entire industry. Mr. Peng nodded slowly, his ego clearly stroked by the mention of being the gold standard. Peng set his teacup down slowly. His face was unreadable. Then, Xiaowen, why didn't you go to Beijing? When Xiaobing froze for a second, then he forced a laugh. Me? I wasn't qualified yet. I'm working hard, though. Hopefully, by next year, I'll reach that elite level. Mr. Peng's expression shifted instantly. He stood up. Forget it. Let's put this matter aside for now. We'll talk later. He walked out without another word. When Xiaobing stood there, looking like a complete idiot. He tried to chase after him, but the secretary blocked his way, claiming Mr. Peng had an urgent social engagement. On his way back to the office, when Xiaobing's head was spinning, everything was ready. The contract was filled out. It was just one signature away, and then the man just walked out? It was absurd. Suddenly, he slapped his thigh in anger. That son of a bitch, Chen Bin. He played me. I'll get him fired for this. When Xiaobing had been in the game for years, he knew when a client was being handled. Mr. Peng had been enthusiastic before, but today he was just going through the motions. One was convinced I had sabotaged him. He stormed back to the office and went straight to his manager, Gao Yan. Gao Yan, her face pale with rage, went to Director Zhou. Before I knew it, Ma Songjing called me into a meeting room. Gold Lock Industries is a mess, she whispered. When Xiaobing is accusing you of malicious interference with his client. If they prove it, you're finished. I frowned, but Ma Tsong-jing leaned in closer. Follow me to the director's office. Whatever happens, do not admit to anything. Not a single word. When we entered Director Zhou Guanghua's office, Wen Xiaobing and Gao Yin were already there, waiting like vultures. Director Zhou looked the same as always, smiling, friendly, approachable. Chen Bin, he said softly. Xiaowen says you went to see Gold Lock Industries privately over the last 2 days and negatively impacted his deal. Is that true? Look, you're new. I understand if you made a mistake. Just tell me the truth, and we can work through it. Looking at his bright, smiling face, I felt a sudden chill. If Ma Tsong-jing hadn't warned me, I might have fallen for his nice guy act. In our company, interfering with another salesman's lead was the ultimate sin. It was a high-voltage wire. Touch it, and you die. I put on my best look of confused innocence. Are you joking? I'm in charge of the entire 8th Department's web sales now. I'm running around from morning till night just to keep up with my own leads. Why would I waste time sabotaging someone else's? Director Zhou's smile didn't waver, but Gao Yin lost her patience. She started barking threats at me, playing the bad cop to Zhou's good cop. I didn't budge. I denied everything. When Xiaobing laughed bitterly. Chen Bin, you're like a dead duck, still acting tough even with a broken beak. I've been doing this for years. I know my clients. I am certain you saw Mr. Peng in the last 48 hours. My heart skipped a beat. He sounded too confident. He had a move left to play. The news spread through the office like wildfire. A conflict between the 1st and 8th departments was top-tier gossip. Managers and staff gathered around the office door, eager to see the fallout. It was my word against his. Gao Yin calmly picked up a phone. She set it on the desk and turned on the speakerphone. She was dialing Peng Hongba's direct line. My stomach dropped. I realized too late that I should have called Mr. Peng earlier to coordinate our stories. Now, I was at the mercy of whatever he decided to say. The phone rang. The entire office went silent. Dozens of people were holding their breath. Hello? Who is this? Mr. Peng's voice echoed through the room. Hello, Mr. Peng. This is Gao Yin, the planning director from Buyue Technology, she said, her voice smooth and professional. I'm calling about your website project. Our consultant mentioned that Gold Lock is an industry leader, and we've prepared our best technical proposal for you. But when Xiaobing mentioned things are on hold, do you have concerns about the plan? No, the plan is fine, Mr. Peng replied. But our strategy has changed, so we're pausing the project. Gao Yin narrowed her eyes. I see. But our other consultant, Chen Bin, mentioned you were launching a 1,000,000 yuan marketing campaign and that the website was a priority. I just wanted to confirm if Chen Bin misunderstood the situation. She was setting a trap. If Mr. Peng even mentioned seeing me, I was dead. I prayed he would keep his mouth shut. You're Mr. Chen Bin? Mr. Peng asked. Didn't he go to Beijing for elite training? Isn't that what you told me? Yes, Gao Yin said quickly. That's why Xiaowen is handling it. Well, Director Gao, Mr. Peng said, his voice turning cold. Your Mr. Wen told me that Chen Bin is a business elite, while he is just a regular employee. There's one thing I don't understand. We are Gold Lock, the undisputed leader of the industry in China. Mr. Peng's voice boomed through the speaker, growing more agitated by the second. You took away my business elite and replaced him with a regular employee? Is this how you treat a high-priority project? Who do you think you're looking down on? The office was deathly silent. Gao Yin stood frozen, her professional mask cracking. You told me your elites were all in Beijing. Mr. Peng continued his tirade. You sent some random guy to handle us instead. I told you from the start, I want a top-tier team, top-tier planning, and top-tier service. Is this what you call top-tier? If this is your attitude, why would I give you my business? I'm completely disappointed in your company. This project is on hold indefinitely. He hung up. Gao Yin looked like she'd been slapped. Next to her, Wen Xiaobing's face turned a deep, drunken shade of red. It was humiliating. He had only called me a business elite to lower Mr. Peng's guard and steal the client, never imagining the lie would blow up in his face. Mr. Peng was an egomaniac. Once he felt insulted, he wouldn't let it go. A few beats of silence passed, and then the office erupted. Some people were actually snickering. My guys from Department 8 started jeering immediately. Elite Chun, Zhang Le shouted across the room. From now on, that's your name. Elite. Gao Yan's expression was terrifying. She looked at Wen Xiaobing like he was a piece of trash. He had exposed himself completely today, and he dragged her reputation down with him. Ma Songjing, never one to miss a chance to twist the knife, stepped forward. Chen Bin, look at how Wen Xiaobing supports you. He praised you to the heavens in front of the client. It really shows the high moral character of our senior consultants. Such care for a newcomer, it's truly touching. Aren't you going to thank him? I grinned at Wen Xiaobing, my teeth showing. Thanks, brother one. I'll buy you a drink tonight. Wen Xiaobing shook with rage, his hands trembling at his sides. The rest of the office burst into laughter. Finally, Mr. Zhou stepped out of his office, smiling thin-lipped. All right, that's enough. Let's cut out the nonsense. From now on, any reports of malicious interference must have hard evidence. We won't have a repeat of Wen Xiaobing's stunt today. We need to trust our new employees. Just because you can't close a deal doesn't mean someone else is sabotaging you. It was a sharp rebuke. On the surface, he was scolding Wen Xiaobing, but he was really taking a shot at Gao Yan. Her department, Department 1, had dominated the company for too long. Mr. Zhou usually didn't dare cross her, but he wasn't about to waste this chance to knock her down a peg. The moment Gao Yan got back to her department's area, she lost it. She tore into Wen Xiaobing, her voice low and venomous. It's bad enough you made a fool of yourself, but you dragged me and the whole department into the dirt with you. You better win sales champion this month, Wen Xiaobing. If you don't, you'll be the laughingstock of this company until the day it folds. Later, she pulled him aside privately. Her tone shifted to a cold, calculated support. I want you to take the top spot. The department will back you. I'll talk to the others to shift some of their sales credit to your name. Plus, I'm giving you all the leads from the consultants who recently quit. Get your head in the game. Don't let those bottom feeders get to you. The war between Department 1 and Department 8 was officially out in the open. Ma Songjing wasn't the type to back down. That night, she took our entire team to a KTV lounge. We drank and sang until everyone was riding a high. Then, she suddenly grabbed the mic and cut the music. You all saw what happened to Chen Bin today, she shouted. Department 1 thinks they can walk all over us. They think they can bully us and file fake reports just because they're the veterans. I want to know, are we going to take this lying down? No, the team roared back. Chen Bin, she barked. Are you going to take it? I knew her game, but the adrenaline was real. I yelled back at the top of my lungs, hell no. Good, Ma Songjing said, her eyes flashing. But let's be real. They have 12 people, including 6 senior consultants. We have 10 people, and not a single senior among us. We're going to fight them, but we have to be smart. This month, we have one goal, crush Wen Xiaobing's arrogance. Who is going to carry that mission? Elite Chun. The guys teased, but their support was genuine. Feng Rou stepped up. Chen Bin, I have 2 website deals almost ready to close. If you help me finalize them, I'll put the sales credit under your name. I only want half the commission. The others started chiming in, offering to sacrifice their stats to boost mine. Ma Songjing's brainwashing was powerful. Even the 2 new hires wanted to help. I didn't have the heart to tell them that Wen Xiaobing was still a formidable opponent. With Gao Yan backing him and his colleagues feeding him sales, he could easily hit a massive number. But I had to fight. This company was a jungle where only the strong survived. Wen Xiaobing had tried to ruin me over a deal he stole in the first place. I couldn't swallow that bitterness. The next day, Ma Songjing accompanied me to Longhua District. We visited 2 clients and closed one deal worth 15,000 yuan. It was originally Feng Rou's lead, but she kept her word and gave me the credit. My total sales for the month shot past 40,000. During the meeting, Ma Songjing taught me how to read a client. When a boss says money is no object, just give me the best plan, he's lying, she whispered. Usually, price is exactly what they're worried about. With guys like that, you quote high at first to set their expectations, then drop the final price significantly. It makes them feel like they've won. I listened, I learned, and for the first time, I felt like I actually belonged in this cutthroat city. Ma Songjing taught me a valuable lesson about couples who run businesses together. In those cases, the wife almost always controls the finances. She told me that when I started a pitch, I had to give the woman a specific, blurry vision. I had to make her believe that if she invested 10,000, my project would earn her 30,000 back. From the very beginning, I had to frame the cost not as an expense, but as an investment. If I didn't plant that seed early, collecting the actual payment would be a nightmare, even if the contract was signed. I thought I had summarized my own sales experience well, but Ma Songjing's tactics were on another level. It was like writing. I thought my prose was lean and refined, but a true master could take my 3,000-word article and cut half of it while making it better. That was the gap between us. My methods were too complicated. She told me that selling websites didn't require elaborate on-site proposals because the clients didn't understand them anyway. The key was to hit their pain points. In the manufacturing industry, the biggest pain point was finding customers to survive. Then she shared a dirty trick. 2 days before a pitch, she would have someone pose as a potential big client for the target company. Just when the conversation was going great, the fake client would ask if the company had a website to check their products. When the boss admitted they didn't have one, the client would suddenly act cold and lose interest. If I walked in the next day to offer a website, the closing rate was almost 100%. Ma Songjing was a monster. I had planned to meet my manhwa client 3 times to close the deal. She went with me once and finished it. A day later, she helped me close another website deal for 13,000 yuan. That one belonged to Song Xiaobo. Just like the others, he gave up the sales credit to me in exchange for half the commission. My total sales exploded to over 54,000 yuan. As a new employee who started halfway through the month, I had clawed my way into the top 3 of the entire company. The drama was intense. On the day I hit 40,000, I had finally surpassed Wen Xiaobing. But he immediately closed an 18,000 yuan deal to take the lead back. Then I hit the 13,000 yuan deal and crushed him again. He had broken 50,000 too, but I was leading him by 3,000. I was 3rd place. He was stuck in 4th. Ma Songjing almost broke the ceremonial gong at the entrance of Department 8. She was vicious. She never missed an opportunity to use every trick in her bag to humiliate her rivals. Under her influence, everyone in our department acted like they were on adrenaline. Even Zhang Lu, who usually slacked off, started working hard. Old Tang's persistence finally paid off too. He secured a 9,000 yuan domain deal, bringing his monthly total to 14,000. But the real star for Ma Songjing was a new hire named Lu Sun. He had only been at the company for 3 days when he closed a 7,000 yuan deal. He skipped his probation and went straight to full-time status. Lu Sun became the new celebrity. He stood on stage during the morning meeting, basking in the cheers of over 100 salesmen. Department 8 was now miles ahead of the other 2 new departments. We were closing in on the 2nd place spot for the whole company. We were a whirlwind, and the veteran department managers were losing face by the second.